stories in the little bit that I was able to be out and about over the past couple of weeks, but I've heard many stories of people having just, people unknown to them show up and say, can I help you out and help you move your stuff, and where do you need to go and what do you need hauled? And I'm hopeful that that same sort of spirit is alive right now in the Minot area and in Ward County as people have to once again evacuate. We have been told that you can call the flood hotline number at 858-9366, 858-9366. If you find yourself in need of help in moving your stuff, give that number a call and they'll see if they can line you up with somebody who is available to do some hauling for you or some lifting or whatever it is you might need to have done in order to evacuate your home. So 858-9366, that's that flood hotline number that we're pretty well familiar with these days here in the Minot area right now. The people in the city of Minot have been told they must evacuate as of 10 p.m. on Wednesday. So we're talking just over 48 hours from now. You must be out of your home, and you'll have to go through that same routine that you went through a couple of weeks ago, 2.5 weeks ago, whatever it was, and that is to make sure that your water is shut off, and a best idea is to turn off your power supply. Now, the XL Energy people did say that if you are in a kind of a fringe area and you're operating a sump pump that is important to your house, turn everything else off, but leave the sump pump on if you'd like. And then if that area becomes inundated, the folks at XL Energy will turn off the power for entire neighborhoods. So your power will be cut off at that point, and then it won't matter if your sump pump doesn't run. So that was a fairly good plan, it sounded like to me, in case you have that situation in where you're living. MDU is going to be going door to door starting tomorrow, knocking on doors of businesses and homes to make sure that the gas situation gets shut off at each of the service meters around town. And we're talking about, thousands of homes around the city, and we're talking about probably at least 10,000, maybe 11 or 12,000 people who are being evacuated from their homes because of this Mouse River that is run wild right now. This is the largest flood, the deepest flood is going to be, according to the projections, in the history of Minot. As a matter of fact, it is way, way over the worst flood that we've ever recorded in the city of Minot. And let me see if I can find that. Oh, I just closed the wrong thing here. Sorry about that. Give me a second while I get to the records here on the right page. I got a little happy with my clicking there. And I can tell you now that Minot's highest flood record is 1558. That was in the year 1881. So back in 1881 was the previous record at 1558. We are expected, according to the projections from the National Weather Service, to surpass the 1558 mark on Friday about noon or so. Okay, so we're expected to go past that mark of 1558 around noon on Friday. And that will be then on the way upward and onward to the crest prediction, which is currently at 1564.4. And just to remind you, that is a full 9 feet above the 1969 crest, which was 1555.4. So the projection right now from the Weather Service and the Corps of Engineers and the folks who put these things together is for a crest 9 feet higher than the river got back in 1969. Those are the kind of levels which lead you to just kind of shake your head. We heard Perry this afternoon after that press conference say that, he is in an area where he is being forced to evacuate. In fact, that's what he's doing right now, is helping his family, and I think, matter of fact, helping my family to evacuate right now with the help of some of the Miller boys, who we certainly appreciate, the Sherwood Miller boys who are visiting from all over the state to help in the evacuation of our neighborhood. And we say thanks to all of them. And, just on a personal note, I have to say thanks again also to the Moores, Kurt and Gail Moore, who so very graciously let us stay at their house for several days beyond when we could have moved back home the last time around. And when things were starting to get a little bit iffy a couple of days ago, I noticed there was an email from Gail to my wife that said, your bed is ready. So I thought that was very nice of them to point out that we were welcome to go back to our home away from home for a while. So I guess that'll be happening in the next few days. But enough of that personal stuff. But I just wanted to say that Perry had made the comment today that, it almost was a relief to hear this information, because over the past 60 days, you've been getting up wondering, did it rain where it's not supposed to rain? Did the river go up? Are we going to have problems? What's going on? I don't know what to move out. I move back in. Should I move out? And I guess it puts some finality to it. Not that it's a good finality by any means, but there's no more questioning, I guess. I'm going to take a sip of water now. These are the evacuation maps for the city of Burlington. That press conference was held at 8 o'clock tonight. You saw it live here on KX News. And the Burlington area, essentially everything across the railroad tracks in Burlington. If you're used to coming into Burlington from the main highway, from Highway 2 and 52, which is on the left side of your screen there, you see how it loops around to the left. Well, if you go into town on that straight road there and look to your right across the railroad tracks, almost all of the houses in that area are under a mandatory evacuation. Also, the county announced that all of the subdivisions between Minot and Burlington are also under the evacuation order by Wednesday night at 7 o'clock, as are the subdivisions such as Apple Grove, East Side Estates, and all along the river in Logan and Sawyer. So that's what's facing your neighbors right now. If you live up on one of the hills or live somewhere else that's outside of this particular area, you can rest easy just a bit, but maybe you want to think about what you can do to help your neighbors who are struggling perhaps to figure out how to move all of their things or lift some heavy things or find a trailer or find some sort of a vehicle that will help them to make their evacuation more possible. Also, if I could put out a request from the city, from the police chief, from the people who have been out and about from our TV station today, and that is, boy, please do not drive out there right now if you don't need to. Don't just go out for a drive to see what you can see, because there are so many people who need to get from point A to point B right now. They get a bit frustrated when they have to sit in long lines. Now, certainly the people who are legitimately out there are welcome to do it, but we encourage everybody who does not need to be out there to please stay off the highways and roads around the Minot area right now. We are going to take a break and come back and talk some more about what's going on. We have a special hour-long edition of our 10 o'clock news of KX News at 10 coming up. Sean Sitma will be here then. And just to tell you our commitment right now, our commitment is to broadcast 24/7 live news throughout the clock right here on KX News, starting now and going, well, until it feels like we shouldn't do it anymore. So it'll be a while, and we'll be on the air with the most pertinent information that we can give you, and we will be bringing you all of the details of what's happening around the area related to this flood fight, and all of our other programming will be preempted for the foreseeable future on KX News as of right now. So Sean Sitma will be coming in tonight to take you in the overnight hours from, say, 10 o'clock tonight till 6 in the morning. Then Perry Olson will be here at 6 in the morning until 2 o'clock, and then I'll come back from 2 until 10. And we'll keep that going for a while until, as I say, it feels like maybe we don't need to do it anymore. So that's our schedule for the moment. We'll be back with more continuous coverage in just a moment.
From KX News in high definition, this is a special report, Flood Fight 2011.
We are going to become a lake. That is how the mayor of Minot described what is in the future for the Magic City over the next couple of weeks, as the Mouse River prepares to go over the dikes in Minot and flood the valley up and down the Mouse River Valley through the city of Minot and in other places along the way as well, of course. And so with that outlook ahead, the mayor and others have ordered the evacuation of about 10,000 people from the city. If you live in the evacuation zone, you have until 10 p.m. on Wednesday night, 10 p.m. on Wednesday, to evacuate your home in Minot. In Burlington, the evacuation order takes place at 7 p.m. on Wednesday. That is for a majority of the town of Burlington, and it also covers the rural areas of Ward County. The county is ordering evacuations for folks who live along the river, basically all of the subdivisions, including the projects area, and then on through Brooks Addition and right on through to Minot, and then east of Minot on the way down to Logan and Sawyer, with places like East Side Estates and Apple Grove. So those effective Wednesday night at 7 o'clock for the evacuations there, and for the city of Minot, the evacuation effective time is 10 p.m. on Wednesday. Now, I just want to put a plug in for a moment here for our Facebook site, because this is just spectacular what happens on Facebook. If you go to facebook.com/KX News Minot, you can take a look at what's on there right now. And right now I'm reading, for instance, here's an elderly man who needs help moving his stuff out of his home. If you can help, give him a call. And somebody has already responded to that and is going to help out, I am sure. Just above that is another one. I have a home in Deering that I could put up a flood victim if you need a place to stay. So, you know, that sort of thing. If you need help with daycare, there's another message. So all those sorts of messages are right now on our Facebook page at KX News Minot. Just go there and check it out, and just learn about what's going on, that people are willing to help out each other, and I'm very happy to see that, and that's a great service to be able to provide through Facebook like that. And Tom Schrader is here with us now, and Tom, we are looking at rain that happened during the day today, so what's the latest?
Well, we can take a look at the radar, and I'll show you what's going on right now.
Okay.
Most of the really heavy rain really has tapered off, and I know I heard the mayor in Burlington talking about, you know, he had heard a report of 3 inches of rain. I don't see that anywhere, anything that I'm looked at. I contacted the Weather Service, and all we're coming up with is about 1 inch to 1.5 inches around Kenmare. Now, around Flaxton, very definitely close to 3 inches of rain, but around Kenmare, we're talking about inch, 1.5 inches. Jim Potter, who's our weather spotter in Kenmare, that's all he had. And then I just got a note here. Somebody from the Grand Forks office of the National Weather Service has been watching our chat room that we have, and he got some numbers for me from up in Canada.
Okay.
And so this is from the Canadian Wheat Board near the, okay, I always get every Canadian town wrong.
Take a shot.
Okay, Oxbow.
Oxbow, yep.
See, that's 1 for 1. That showed 0.2 of an inch since midnight.
Okay, that's not bad. Oxbow, by the way, is where the Alameda Dam is located. Okay.
Frobisher.
No idea.
Did I get that one right? They're in English units. Okay, so Frobisher 2600ths, Carlisle 0.4 of an inch, Mancoon 0.33, and these are since midnight. So, you know, the numbers we've kind of been assuming were happening, these are ground truth numbers, and they're not that bad right now.
A little bit lower.
So a little bit lower, so I guess if you're looking for a silver lining, that's good.
Okay. We mentioned that Oxbow is where the Alameda Dam is located. Estevan is where the Rafferty and Boundary dams are located. Those are the 3 dams, the triumvirate that are sending down our direction all of this water, over 22,000 cubic feet per second of water. You know, during the press conference today, there was some talk from the governor about being concerned a bit about the condition of the Rafferty Dam. The Rafferty Dam is the major dam of the 3, and it has just a huge lake behind it, and it is holding back all that water. Now, they have completely opened the gates at the Rafferty Dam as of this morning. They have just pulled the gates out and opened it up and let it flow completely as quickly as it will go. And so the governor said that he had talked with his counterpart in Saskatchewan, the Saskatchewan premier, and I want to look up his name because I have that written down here. His name is coming to me at some point right here. I didn't go back far enough. There it is. Brad Dahl, who is the premier of Saskatchewan, who told Governor Jack Dalrymple that the dam is in good shape structurally, and that if he hears anything different, if they find out anything different about the dam, the governor will be notified immediately. He did say that if they find they cannot bring the level of the lake down, the level of that Rafferty reservoir down, through what they're doing right now, then they may have to consider building an emergency spillway, which would essentially involve cutting a piece of the dike away so that they could then create a new spillway, a new place for the water to evacuate from the lake, because of course they can't have too much water up against that dam for a long period of time because of problems with the structural integrity. And as of 4 o'clock this afternoon, almost 5 o'clock this afternoon, the Rafferty Reservoir is still above its highest level of the 554 meters is the stage. That's considered full, and it is right now over that by some amount. It's very hard to tell on the graph that they have, but it is definitely higher than the 554 level as of 4:41 this afternoon in Canada. So that gives you an idea of the type of situation that they're dealing with in Canada right now to try to handle the water flows that are coming into the Rafferty Dam. Excuse me, just to give you an idea of how that works, The watershed of the Souris and Mouse Rivers stretches almost all the way up to Regina in kind of south-central Saskatchewan. From there, it stretches down to the southeast, you know, through Estevan and then hitting the U.S. border, and then comes down, of course, down to Minot and places to the south. I just want to grab my map that shows me how far the southern end is. Probably help if I had it up right side up here. The southern end drains all the way down to places like Butte and Keefe and Drake. All of the water in those areas drains into the Mouse River as it's getting ready to head its way back up into Canada. So it's a very large watershed that drains water into this system. It goes past Weyburn, as I mentioned. It goes almost all the way to Regina, and so it's a very large area. And it seems like over the past several weeks, we've had just one rainstorm after another every few days that comes through and puts down an inordinate amount of rain in a certain area, but that area always seems to be over the area that drains into the Souris River in Canada. So that's the situation as it stands right now. The dams are operating, at least they're advertised as operating as expected, and they're not reporting any structural problems in Canada. And the same at Lake Darling Dam, also not reporting any structural problems. Of course, Lake Darling Dam has been coming down in its level in recent days. And let me get you an update on where that stands right now. Let me also just update you. Tom, I don't know if we've updated the level of the Mouse River lately. Okay, you got a new one? 1553.54. Yep, that's the newest number in Minot at the Broadway Bridge. Now I can check out that Lake Darling level for you just to see how the efforts are going there to try to bring its level down somewhat. Its most recent reading is at 8:15 p.m. and that's at 1599.52, and so that's a full 2 feet below its full level of 1601.5. So there is about 2 feet of storage available right now at Lake Darling, and that's something that they're trying to do and trying to increase over time to try to have as much storage as possible available there for all this water that's coming down from Canada. However, there was no sugarcoating the message today from the people who are in charge of this. Of course, Mayor Kurt Zimbelman is among them, and the leader of the group that has been keeping us updated with all the information in recent weeks. He came out and said that we're looking at a crest projection that is just way over what anybody might be able to consider as a possibility up until today. And the mayor talked about that, and we also heard from some of the other folks today in a late afternoon press conference. Here's the story that Perry Olson put together about that.
It's not a question of if anymore. Minot will flood. It will displace thousands, shut down the heart of the city for weeks, and inundate thousands of homes in a way never seen before.
We could have some really catastrophic type of event here, and it will be. There's not much of a doubt. So I think people have to understand that, you know, even if you were on the edge before, you may not be on the edge the next time.
The mayor was speaking to those who will be evacuated. Now, all evacuated about 3 weeks ago will be again and must be out by Wednesday night at 10 o'clock. But for those on the outskirts of this map, they too should make plans to evacuate. There's no way to guarantee that the mighty mouse won't reach your home, even if you're not in an evacuation zone, but may be right next to it.
We're currently looking at inundation maps and profiles to see if we'll have to enlarge these evacuation zones.
Expect to hear more on that Tuesday, but the news to hear today, and let sink in, is this.
We're going to become a pool. I mean, we're going to become a lake. And it's hard to accept. It's hard to really believe. But I have some real concerns.
Concerns that will become reality. Flows of 17,000 CFS. That's more than 3 times the record amount before this year from the Lake Darling Dam on Wednesday will reach Minot sometime Thursday, Friday, or the weekend. And the emergency levee system will be topped.
All city bridges will be closed at these levels except for Broadway Bridge. We plan to keep Broadway open.
Secondary dike work will hopefully keep it open as a major north-south route along with the west bypass. More infrastructure news. The water system in Minot will be put to the test. Alan Walter spoke to the need for conservation over the entire duration of this flood.
You need to think about what you're doing when you're taking your showers and baths and washing clothes and all that stuff.
The city will be down to one aquifer. Walter says it can do the job, but conservation is a must. Now, the news is endless, but what citizens of Minot need to know is this. The battle to keep floodwaters in the banks of the riverbed will fail. Water will spill over and flood Minot in a way never before seen by anyone alive today. This flood will last for at least 2 weeks before the water may start to go down at all. This will be long. It will be devastating. It will change thousands of lives. An example of just how high the Mouse will rise comes from Sean Sitma's story from Sunday. Now, this marker indicates the level of the 1969 flood just east of Oak Park. We'll match this and cover it with an additional 7 feet of water. In Minot, Perry Olson, KX News.
And we'll be back with more in just a moment.
From KX News in high definition, this is a special report. Flood Fight 2011.
Evacuations are the order of the day, all up and down the Mouse River as it runs through North Dakota. At this hour, we are expecting evacuations to be going on for the next 24 hours for people in Renville County. That's the Mouse River Park area and others who live along the river, along the valley there in Renville County. Those evacuations were ordered this morning, effective tomorrow night. Then the evacuation area moves downstream to the Burlington area Wednesday night at 6 o'clock. I think I had said 7 o'clock earlier, and I apologize for that. I must have misheard the mayor when he spoke, but I was just handed a piece of paper with his comments from the Burlington press conference, and it says 6 p.m. So let me just look back real quick at my notes and see if I am just remembering wrong or if I just heard wrong. Well, I wrote down Wednesday at 7 p.m. Regardless, Wednesday night is the time for the evacuations for the folks in Burlington. That's a majority of the city of Burlington, and there also are evacuation orders that affect the folks who live in the areas between Burlington and Minot, and then downstream of Minot in Ward County. So if you live along the river in any of those developments, you are under a mandatory evacuation for Wednesday night in that supper hour, we'll call it, 6 or 7 o'clock on Wednesday night. Now, the evacuations then go down to the city of Minot, where Wednesday at 10 p.m. is the deadline for you if you live inside any of the evacuation zones in Minot. And we can take a look maybe at that map that shows you the evacuation zones, which is, you remember these numbers, 1 through 9. We had all of them being evacuated simultaneously 2.5 weeks ago, and then there was kind of a step ladder effect of people moving back in parts of 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and that sort of thing. But at this point in time, we're not talking about moving back in, we're talking about moving out, and everybody inside the evacuation zone all along the river valley through Minot will have to be out by 10 o'clock on Wednesday night. That evacuation notice came this afternoon in a press conference at 4 o'clock that we just talked about. Also, throughout the day, you've heard some of the city officials talk over the past couple of weeks about how these projections and guesses from the Corps of Engineers and other groups seem to change almost every day, and they never seem to change for the better. They always seem to change for the worse. Well, today was a good example of that, where the numbers that the officials were working with changed about 3 times, maybe even more than that, but they started out expecting about 17,000 CFS. Then at about mid-morning, we got the news that it was going to be more like 22 or 23,000 CFS coming from the Canadian dams, and so they decided to increase the flows from Lake Darling up to as high as 15,000 CFS. Then later in the day, we were told that Lake Darling was going to go to 17,000 CFS, and now by the end of the day tonight, we are told that Lake Darling is going to go to 18,700 CFS next Monday, and that is expected to maintain until July 2nd, when they may be able to bring the discharges down. May, I suppose, is the operative word here again, because that is just today's estimate, not tomorrow's estimate. Tomorrow's estimate could be different. So that's what's causing the issue with the water in Minot and Burlington and all the other points along the river, is that high level of flow coming out of Lake Darling. So 18,700 CFS. And we showed you the chart that is the hydrograph from the Minot Broadway Bridge before, and here it is once again. You can see the green line is what indicates the projected, what they think is going to happen over time in the future. And I'll just throw out a request here, Joe, or I don't know who's running the machine in there. Is there any way to adjust the light level on that at all to get it more brightness or anything? I don't know. It's just a question. You can. Okay, you're going to try. All right, I appreciate it. It's just a little bit dark, but this shows you the hydrograph for Minot Broadway Bridge, and the green dots are the projections for the future, what they think is going to happen. And you'll notice that we're expecting the lake, or the river level rather, to stay fairly constant for the next couple of days, a fairly slow rise, I guess I should say, for the next couple of days. And then starting on Thursday, we expect to see that slow rise give way to a kind of a meteoric rise Thursday night into Friday morning. And by Friday morning at around, 7 o'clock or so, something like that, we're going to be getting to over the 1556 level, and actually Friday morning a little earlier than that. So early Friday morning we could start to see water getting over the top of dikes in Minot, which are about at the 1556 level, maybe a little bit above that. And the water will then start pouring into all the neighborhoods that are down in the valley, and will start filling up and reaching its own level, as water does, as you well know. And so eventually the water is going to just keep going up and up according to the latest projections until it hits the 1564.4 mark. That would be 9 feet higher than the level that was reached back in 1969. Even as I say that, it's almost just hard to fathom. You know, I did not live through the 1969 flood here in Minot. I was living in Minnesota still at that time. But I've seen the videotape of it. In fact, I wonder if we still have in our machine in the control room the video that we have of the 1969 flood. Do you guys have time to check that out, going back to about May 31st, I think, that would have been sent in there? We can see if it still exists. It may still be in there. I don't know. We'll look. Or otherwise, it's in probably one of the edit bays. Export. Okay, it might be in one of the edit bay export files that we could also find, but it might be interesting to run that 69 footage. But the point I was making is, I've seen the 1969 footage so much, I almost feel like I lived through it. Of course, I did not. And you know, to think about that and then to add 7, 8, or 9 feet onto that for the city of Minot, it's almost hard to fathom. As Tom Schrader looked at me just when we went into the last break and said, what'd you say, Tom? He said, I'm having a hard time wrapping my head around this. It's almost hard to fathom that the water could possibly go that high. But that is the projection that we're getting from the National Weather Service and from the Corps of Engineers. So it's kind of our duty to pass it along to you, I guess. But that's what they're telling us. So as hard as it might be to fathom or understand, that's what they tell us is going to be happening. Any luck with that old video? Okay, so in the meantime, let us move on then to the video that I was going to show, which is the raising of dikes, trying to protect infrastructure in the city of Minot. This work is going on tonight. These are some pictures that we took this evening that show you what's happening as the infrastructure areas are being protected by the very high dikes, trying to protect up to that, 1564, 1565 level, to make sure that those infrastructure installations are protected from the high water. This is near the Roosevelt Park Zoo. They're trying to protect sewer systems and everything they can.
Well, right now we're trying to build up a 6 to 8 foot berm around this lift station here by the zoo. And so far it's taken us quite a few hours to do it. We've already had, I want to say, 5 or 6 side dumps come in and look to dump off. Hoping they've got enough here to do some more.
So you get a look at what's been going on in the area along the Mouse River through Minot to try to protect against the rising waters of the river. And, the city is doing what it can. Now, they also are putting up dikes in the area around Sammy's Pizza in an effort to keep that North Broadway Bridge open. Actually, the bridge itself, of course, would never be closed. That's what, about 40 feet above the river. But the area, they want to keep North Broadway open, and so that area where water can tend to cause problems by Sammy's Pizza at 4th Avenue, they are going to be doing some diking in that area to try to keep that main north-south thoroughfare open to traffic throughout this flood event in Minot. We haven't received any word yet if there's any work going to be done to try to protect the All Seasons Arena complex, the State Fair complex. Unknown at this point about what is happening in that area. Now let's roll some of the video that we have from 1969 and see who in the audience can remember what this was like. if I remember right, is that Magic City? No, it can't be Magic. Is that Ramstead? Yeah, Ramstead Middle School from 1969. And you see some of the other areas around town with the water. Now, this was back when the Mouse River was a much more winding river coming through town. One of the things done in the flood control project was to channelize the river and to get rid of some of the loops. And so that has helped to move the water through more quickly. But you can see the flooding in the Perkett Middle School area there. And just look at those homes that are you know, just little islands out there in the middle of the water. Now, think of that and add 9 feet of water to that. That would put the water up to the roof almost. And, you know, we would just see rooftops according, if those predictions are correct. So that's what we're looking at for the city of Minot here now in the next, what, week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, however long this misery goes on. And really, earlier today, I think I described it as just kind of a slow motion water torture, which is just what has been going on. And we're kind of starting to hit the climax of that here now over the next 5 or 6 days. And you can see the 1969 video there. We'll keep that handy and use it again maybe during our 10 o'clock news broadcast tonight, just so you can kind of relive what that was like. And then as you look at that video again, just think about adding 7 or 8 or 9 feet to those levels from what they are right there. So let's say that you are now facing the fact that you have to evacuate. So what kind of things should you do? What could you do to prepare your home? We have a graphic that might help you to get some ideas about what you can do. And of course, you want to turn off your electricity and water, and then the gas company will turn off the gas supply. You want to make sure you move your valuables and hazardous materials above the expected water level. And of course, if you're living in an area where you might get water up to the top of the first floor, that might be difficult to do. But if you have a second floor, you know, go for that. Make sure fuel tanks are anchored down, and also plug your basement floor drains. Now, I hope that you've already done that. That should have been done weeks ago. Also, remove or prepare your appliances by shutting off at the fuse box or the breaker panel. And also consider removing even your furnace, but for sure, make sure you disconnect the gas and electricity from it. Air conditioner should be left alone, they say. You might want to consider removing the water heater as a possibility. Water pressure can break basement windows, so you may want to remove or open those windows if flooding is imminent. Now, there's a piece of information that is a good one to remember. Consider opening up your basement windows to relieve the pressure. Water pressure also can damage basement walls, and that can be done because of the saturation of the soil. So there's not much you can probably do about that at this late date. But also make sure you remove porous material, so carpet, wall coverings, that sort of thing. They're easier to take out when they're dry than they are when they're sopping wet. So wood, very solid wood, oak and that sort of thing can tolerate water, so that can make it. But you know, pressed wood and that sort of thing is not going to do well. And drywall for sure, if you can take that out, you should do that. And carpet and wall coverings, consider moving that out also, just to make it a little bit easier when you come back to your home if the water ever goes down. Just a little bit of flood humor for you there. We're coming up on about 20 minutes before the top of the hour. At 10 o'clock, we'll have an extended version of KX News at 10 for you. We're going to take a break right at the moment and be back with more of our continuous coverage of the Flood Fight 2011.
From KX News in high definition, this is a special report, Flood Fight 2011.
Well, the flood fight is on throughout the north central part of North Dakota as the Mouse River continues its rampage across our region. The river is expected to hit record levels pretty much everywhere, all the way up and down at every one of the gauging stations throughout North Dakota, whether it's from Sherwood on down to the Lake Darling Dam and then on to Foxholm and then down to Burlington, on to the Boy Scout Bridge area, to Minot, to Logan, to Sawyer, Velva, to Towner, on to Bantry and over to West Hope. I think every one of those gauging stations will come away from this year with a new record high that was set in 2011. We are talking about the flood of a century, the flood of a millennium practically for this year in the Mouse River Basin in the United States. Of course, it starts as the Souris River in Canada, where it is gaining steam and still is pouring tons and tons, record amounts of water into the Rafferty Reservoir, as well as the Alameda Reservoir and the Boundary Reservoir, and those three dams are now releasing some 22,000 cubic feet per second of water, and all of that water is headed downstream to the United States, causing these problems. We talked just a little bit about getting your home ready for evacuation. Well, the evacuations are required for people who live in Burlington. Almost everybody, not everybody, but just about in Burlington, under a mandatory evacuation effective Wednesday evening at about 6 or 7 o'clock. And then Wednesday night at 10 is the deadline for people in Minot. If you're in an evacuation zone in Minot, you must be out of your home by Wednesday night at 10 o'clock. Then, by my calculations, on Thursday night, early Friday morning, the dike system in Minot will start to be not enough to hold back the Mouse River. That's when the level is expected to go over the 1556 mark and keep moving up. And then from that point, Friday morning on through to Monday in the middle of the day, we are looking at a 3-day period with an 8.5-foot rise in the Mouse River in Minot projected. That is just an incredible amount of rise in the river, especially when you're up at these high levels where the water spreads out over a longer and wider distance, and so it becomes more difficult for the river to record another foot higher on the gauge. But the prediction is for the river to hit 1564.4 1 week from today, and that would be a full 9 feet over the level that was recorded back in 1969. We showed you some of those pictures just a couple of minutes ago. Now, as the Mouse River continues to rise in Minot, downstream in Velva, the folks are still feeling pretty good about their ability to keep the river inside the banks. I don't know if you've ever noticed, the Mouse River in Velva has a very significant levee system that runs through town, and it is protecting the city up to a level of 1515. As of now, it looks like Velva is only supposed to get up to maybe about 1512 or so, so they still have a few feet extra to go in the Velva area. City Commissioner Paul Thomas says with high water, they see some seepage through some of the dikes. They're keeping an eye on that. And one worry, though, they have is the sewer system in the city right now.
Our main pumps actually went down on us last night. We got those fixed. We had to bring in some additional pumping equipment just to make sure that our lift system didn't back up on us. So we're really asking residents, again, just please make sure you're pumping your sump pumps out into the city storm sewers, not into our regular sewer system.
And that's something that is being stressed, you know, all the way up and down the river system. That is, make sure any sump pump you're operating is exporting the water into the storm sewer system, not into the sanitary sewer system. So get it outside your house into the street, or if you're near the river, get it into the river so that you don't risk overloading the sanitary sewer system and causing sewer backups for somebody in your area. So that's the latest for you from the Velva area, where things are looking pretty good. It's kind of the bright spot along the river right now this year for the folks who live along the Mouse River. Let's talk some more water. And somewhere in my pile of stuff here it is right here, we are being asked to conserve water in the city of Minot, but that's not the only place. The folks, Dean Leonard's over at the Ward County Flood Emergency Center, says that the city of Minot, the city of Burlington, Kenmare, Berthold, and West River and North Prairie rural water users are all being requested to curtail water use, to cut back on water use as much as possible because of the problems with the water system. The problem in Minot is that the city's main aquifers, the Sundre aquifers, are located in the Bison Plant area, which is out by KOA Campground. Okay, so that's where the water comes from that the city uses for its drinking water. However, those wells are now underwater and their control boards are underwater as well, and so those are now inaccessible to the city, and so the backup aquifer is being used, the Minot aquifer, and that has a smaller capacity and can't keep it up for quite as long, and so Alan Walter, the City Public Works Director, is asking us all to conserve water. That's if you are in Minot, Burlington, Kenmare, Berthold, West River, and North Prairie. Please conserve water where possible to try to preserve the water supply throughout this flood event that is going on and will be going on for quite some time. There was one other item here I wanted to look at, and okay, and that was the evacuation. I guess I had talked about that at Renville County. That is for Mouse River Park, an evacuation order for Tuesday night for the folks who are living along the Mouse River in Renville County. So keep that in mind as well. Now, let us go to our next piece of video, which is Catherine Ross, who was out today. She was checking in on people who are deciding to evacuate after maybe thinking at the beginning of the day they might try to fight this thing out, and then some other folks who are still trying to keep fighting as long as possible. And here's her story.
With new reports of up to 17,000 cubic feet per second pouring out of Lake Darling by Thursday, for some, resistance is turning to resignation.
We started out the day with the plans of sandbagging and building up the dike system around the area, and everyone kind of gave up, and we're just moving. Everyone's just moving out now. Under the worst of circumstances, people around here have gotten pretty efficient on the assembly line, moving precious cargo back and forth as predictions change. About 2 weeks ago, we had a big crew here and moved everything out and moved everything back, or started moving back in this last weekend, and now we're moving it all back out again. Between Minot and Burlington, it's become every man for himself, unless you find your way to this happy group of volunteers. Sandbagging through a downpour, a last-ditch effort for Brooks Addition and the Robinwood neighborhood. There's always hope. They're digging in as some head for higher ground and others hope for a miracle. Hopefully we can salvage our house, and just have to see what happens from there.
You don't know. It might be enough just to save one house to a whole neighborhood. You don't give up.
Resignation, resistance, and resiliency, all coming together as we ride out this dark hour. Catherine Ross, KX News.
And so all across the river valley, the story is being repeated. People are getting in there and moving out. I want to remind you to make use of our Facebook page if you're so inclined. You can go to facebook.com/KXNewsMinot, and I'm finding some very good things out there right now. You can get on there and find out about perhaps people who could use your help in their evacuation effort. I've seen a lot of messages like that saying that we know a gentleman who needs help in evacuation, or you might also find messages from people who say that I can come and help if you need the help. I also saw something on here that said we have some daycare that's available if you need daycare. And so that was pretty interesting pieces of information that you'll find on our Facebook page right now. We're getting close to the 10,000 number for the number of people who have clicked whatever the heck it is that they do to friended us. Yeah, Sean is here, by the way. He's going to be taking over for me. I only have 6 more minutes to go, and I think my voice is going to make it. So anyway, the 1969 flood video, I had a request to put that up here again, and I think that they're thinking it might be available on YouTube, but if not, when I get off of the place right here, when I get off the set, I'll run into the edit bay and put that up. Here is the 1969 video again for you just to look at.
We're in the process of uploading it right now to Facebook.
Okay, good. So it will show up on Facebook pretty soon, so you'll be able to see this 1969 video. The Mouse That Roared was what it was called back then. This is part of that video, I think, or at least there was a famous documentary that was put together by the famous CBS newsman, whose name is now going to escape me. But
this is actually our video that we shot. Okay. So this is the old KX file.
Film. It's not video, Sean.
That's right.
That's right.
Film.
This is film. And on the, again, I said, okay, look at this, and then picture 8 or 9 more feet of water on the top of that is what they're being, what we're being told is going to be happening over the next week or so. So this is that 1969 video that, again, you'll be able to see on our Facebook page over the next little while. There's Corbett Field. There's the grandstand right there at Corbett Field behind home plate. And the left field wall where you and I have hit a couple of balls over the fence there, I think, haven't we, Sean?
It was a little while ago, but yeah.
I think we did do that, yeah. And there is a look at the State Fair Center right there out in that area. And, you know, that's a question that I haven't had answered yet, and maybe I won't get answered till tomorrow, but we're kind of wondering if there is any effort being made to protect the state fair out in that area. That's a question that came up.
Well, I'm sure they've got a brand new $12 million grandstand that they
need to protect.
About.
Exactly. So we'll see if that work is going on. I couldn't find anybody who knew if it was happening or not at this point in time. But Sean Sipma is here, and he's going to be taking over our broadcasting in just a few minutes. But let me finish up the thoughts with you. By the way, our plans right now are to stay on the air for full time, 24/7. Sean will be taking over now at 10 and going until 6 in the morning. Perry Olson will take over at 6 and then go until 2 o'clock or maybe noon if there's a press conference for him to go and attend and harass the people with questions. And then I'll take over for him and go until Sean takes over again at 9 or 10 tomorrow night. So we'll continue that schedule. And you should know that all three of us have homes in the evacuation area. So we know what you're going through. Is that a fair assessment?
That is a very fair assessment right there.
All right. So the effort will continue on our part to keep you up to date, and you can also be a part of it by going to our Facebook page. Just go to facebook.com/KXNewsMinot, and you can become part of what goes on there. And there's some very good things that go on there. Every now and then you have to just kind of look past something that's not all that great, but it goes away. Stuff goes down the page fast, so if it's something that's not quite appropriate and we don't catch it, it'll go away in a hurry. So check out our Facebook page if you would. Also, you can remember the flood information hotline number is good to remember, and that's 858-9366. 858-9366 is the phone number to call. And one service that they said they were offering there, and this is open 24 hours a day now, is to try to hook people up who need help in moving out of a home with somebody who might have a truck or a trailer or something that can be helpful, or even a person to come and help lift some heavy things. So if you are in that position, try giving that number a call. Try going to our Facebook page at KX News Minot, and you may be able to hook up with somebody who can fill the bill for exactly what it is that you need to have done. So our 24-hour, 7-day-a-week coverage will continue here on KX News as we move forward. Again, the crest prediction is for a week from today at 1564.4. That's 9 feet higher than the highest level recorded in 1969. It's 6 feet higher than the highest level ever recorded back in the 1880s. So we are headed for some very high water and some major historic flooding for the city of Minot and the county of Ward over the next few weeks. That's going to do it for me. Sean Sipma takes over now and takes you through the evening hours along with help from Tom Schrader and folks in our control room through the evening. We hope you'll stay tuned and stay with us for all the latest on the flood fight of 2011 here on KX News.
For Monday, June 20th, this is KX News in high definition.
7 feet higher than the flood of '69. That's the latest dire prediction for the worst flood in Minot's history. Plus, an executive order from the governor, mandatory evacuations for the city of Burlington, and find out how the city is protecting its infrastructure against the worst of the flood water.
Live in high definition, this is KX News.
And good evening and thanks for joining us tonight. I'm Sean Sipma. It's a sad day for Minot. That's how Minot Mayor Kurt Zimmelman closed an evening press conference on Monday where he delivered the devastating news to thousands of Minot that floodwaters would overtake their homes and businesses. And it won't just flood in a minor way. It will dwarf the historic flood of 1969. 69 measured 1555.4. 2011 is projected to reach 1563. Perry Olson has the details.
It's not a question of if anymore. Minot will flood. It will displace thousands, shut down the heart of the city for weeks, and inundate thousands of homes in a way never seen before.
We could have some really catastrophic type of event here, and it will be. There's not much of a doubt. So I think people have to understand that, even if you were on the edge before, you may not be on the edge the next time.
The mayor was speaking to those who will be evacuated. Now, all evacuated about 3 weeks ago will be again and must be out by Wednesday night at 10 o'clock. But for those on the outskirts of this map, they too should make plans to evacuate. There's no way to guarantee that the mighty mouse won't reach your home, even if you're not in an evacuation zone, but may be right next to it.
We're currently looking at inundation maps and profiles to see if we'll have to enlarge these evacuation zones.
Expect to hear more on that Tuesday, but the news to hear today and let sink in is this.
We're going to become a pool. I mean, we're going to become a lake. And it's hard to accept, it's hard to really believe, but I have some real concerns.
Concerns that will become reality. Flows of 17,000 CFS. That's more than 3 times the record amount before this year from the Lake Darling Dam on Wednesday will reach Minot sometime Thursday, Friday, or the weekend. And the emergency levee system will be topped.
All city bridges will be closed at these levels except for Broadway Bridge. We plan to keep Broadway open.
Secondary dike work will hopefully keep it open as a major north-south route along with the west bypass. More infrastructure news. The water system in Minot will be put to the test. Alan Walter spoke to the need for conservation over the entire duration of this flood.
You need to think about what you're doing when you're taking your showers and baths and washing clothes and all that stuff.
The city will be down to 1 aquifer. Walter says it can do the job, but conservation is a must. Now, the news is endless, but what citizens of Minot need to know is this. The battle to keep floodwaters in the banks of the riverbed will fail. Water will spill over and flood Minot in a way never before seen by anyone alive today. This flood will last for at least 2 weeks before the water may start to go down at all. This will be long. It will be devastating. It will change thousands of lives. An example of just how high the Mouse will rise comes from Sean Sitma's story from Sunday. Now, this marker indicates the level of the 1969 flood just east of Oak Park. We'll match this and cover it with an additional 7 feet of water. In Minot, Perry Olson, KX News.
And since at that time the story was completed, actually that crest has gone up even a little more. It's gone from 1563 to 1564.7, so add another 1.7 feet from Perry's earlier story. Now, an executive order from the governor was issued today to enforce the first mandatory evacuations of Burlington this spring. Sandbagging efforts will continue in Burlington, where volunteers are still needed, but the evacuation order in Burlington will stand. After 6 p.m. Wednesday, evacuated homes will be marked and no one will be allowed back into their homes without an escort. For the safety of all involved, officials will enforce the executive order on that evacuation. Sheriff Steve Kukowski says he knows that people don't want to leave their homes because they are because that's their most prized possession. But if they stay and rescue personnel have to come and get them or evict you, it will put them into harm's way as well. Now let's go ahead and check on those river levels here from around the region. Tom, if we can bring those up, taking a look at the latest river readings from around the Mouse River. In and around, I think we're going to be starting up at Sherwood here. I see his computer has actually just locked up as he's trying to load that. Here we go. We've actually got it. Here we go. We'll come back to that video in just a moment, but here's the latest river readings from around the Mouse River right now. And again, these levels are going to continue to increase significantly over the next week. Right now at 22.91 feet and rising, forecasted to hit that 26.6 mark. That's a week from today. As we move down to Foxholm, that is on the Des Lacs River. That river is going up once again because of recent rainfall at 10.3 inches. That was the highest it ever reached. April of 1979 was actually at 21.23 feet in the Lake Darling Dam as those Canadian flows continue to pour down from Canada, currently sitting at 1599.52 and increasing that flow right now. Outflow is sitting at 9,000 CFS and is going to continue to increase to right around to that 17,000 mark as those outflows push higher and higher down the road. In Burlington, again, that Des Lacs River at 23.36 inches, again increasing. The highest it was back on June 2nd was just on that 24 mark. East of Foxholm on the Mouse River, 17.59 inches. The highest is expected to hit actually, it's forecasted to hit that 20.1 mark June 26th. That's just about 3 feet higher than it was on June 11th. As we work our way down to the northwest, reading northwest of Minot at the Boy Scout Bridge, 21.15 inches. That forecast is expected to hit it's expected to hit 23.7 feet on June 27th. And then again, the Broadway Bridge, this is the reading mark that we've been hearing about all day long. increasing again, heading for that 1564 mark on June 27th. Again, 1564.4. Down on Sawyer, we can see that the reading is still increasing down there, 24.34, expected to crest around that 27.1 mark, and then again at Logan, 37.2. We haven't had a reading there for a little bit, but I'm sure we'll get an update on that. In Velva, 1508.65, heading for that forecasted run of 1511.3. Again, a week from today. A lot of these flows are going to be working on the 27th of June, so that's kind of our mark. Towner dropping a little bit, but I'm sure as some of this water makes its way down that way, we'll see some of those levels go up a little bit at 56.85 right now. Bantry at 14.78, and then at West Hope, our final stop on the Mouse River, increasing again at 19.05 feet. So, Tom, water seems to be the issue today, and we saw another set of rain showers at least go through Minot. We're not so worried about Minot. If the water comes in right here in the Magic City, it tends to go into the river and then goes downstream a little bit. And I'm not saying for Logan or that's any good, but what's been hurting us badly right now, what's going to hurt us very badly is the rain up in Canada that has just been pouring.
Well, you know, I actually have some pretty good news here. His name was Dan Riddle. He works for the National Weather Service. I believe he's stationed in Grand Forks. He sent me a site for the pretty much any rain gauge that a farmer has in Saskatchewan and Manitoba. And I looked there, and the numbers weren't that bad for 24 hours. You know, we were hearing how it was going to be, you know, a couple inches of rain, 1 to 2 inches of rain, and I haven't found anything over 4/10 of an inch of rain.
For today, for the last 24 hours.
And, you know, that's still rain, but it's not 2 inches of rain. So that's potentially good news, as they didn't get that much rain. And I mean, there's 30 sites there, and I've looked at 15 of them. And
but unfortunately, it was the past 48 hours before that just hurt us.
But today wasn't that bad. Now, I'm looking at the radar estimated rainfall from the Deering site, and there's widespread between ½ inch and 1.5 inches rainfall, stretching on one to the east, maybe Tolly and Grano to the west, Lignite in Portal. Now, there are some spots there like around Flaxton and west of Donnybrook that got a lot of rain, but overall it wasn't widespread heavy rain. Now, today we had numerous funnel clouds. We had a couple tornado warnings farther south today.
It wasn't
and when
pretty
it rained,
out there.
it rained really hard. And I'm not saying it didn't, but we didn't get the widespread 2 to 3 inches. We had pockets of heavy rain.
Which is what we don't need right now with that river system, because that widespread rain then just funnels into there and creates even more problems.
Now, the thing is, if you look at the radar, kind of what to notice here is the rain is, you know, west of Highway 83. So that's falling on the Delac River. It's falling up in Canada right now, but you're not seeing the yellows. You're not seeing, well, a little yellow south of Stanley. But Sean, we're not seeing the super heavy rain like we had earlier today right now. Now, overnight, you know, there's still the possibility of heavy rain showers, maybe a thunderstorm, but it does not look like there will be a lot of thunderstorms tonight. So, yeah, we could still get pockets of heavy rain, but probably not widespread heavy rain in the wrong areas.
All right, sounds good, and we'll check back through in just a little bit for a complete rundown on that forecast. Mike, we're going to go back to some of that video from that Burlington story that we ran just a little bit about. The executive order was given today for the first, it will mark the first mandatory evacuations from Burlington. If we just want to go ahead and roll that video. Now, after 6 p.m. Wednesday, evacuated homes will be marked and no one will be allowed back into their homes without an escort. And that is for the safety of all involved, as officials will enforce the executive order of the evacuation.
Prized possession. But if you stay and rescue personnel have to come and get you or evict you, then you put them in danger as well.
And evacuated people are welcome to return to Sandbag, as their fight will continue as long as possible. But when the city sirens sound, everyone will need to leave town.
On the dike when we're in danger. When it gets too close, I mean, everybody's life is more important than anybody's house.
The dikes through town, while we may keep building, we may keep providing that extra level of protection and elevation, they're going to see stresses that they have never seen before. And we have dikes in town right now that are leaking. And that stress is going to continue to increase.
And sandbagging volunteers can meet at the Burlington City Hall. Now, while the city of Minot has given up on raising the dikes, there is still infrastructure they are trying to protect from the flood water. Crews were asked to stop working on the dikes and start focusing on the city structures such as pump and lift stations, the water treatment plant, the city hall, and the different schools. Just east of Roosevelt Park Zoo is just one of the lift stations the city is trying to protect. And while everything around it may be underwater, city officials, their goal is to protect the sewer system and everything else that they can.
Now we're trying to build up a 6 to 8 foot berm around this lift station here by the zoo. And so far it's taken us quite a few hours to do it. We've already had, I want to say, 5 or 6 side dumps come in and look at the dump off. I'm hoping they've got enough here to do some more.
Crews are also working to protect Broadway. They are building up the secondary dike running down 3rd Street and building up the original dike at 4th Avenue to protect access to Broadway. Officials are not yet certain that it will be done with the All Seasons Arena, though. They are currently evaluating the elevation to decide next. And actually, just before we came out here, I've been told that the All Seasons Arena at the State Fair Center is now being worked on as Keller Paving has a 15-man crew of trucks dumping clay to protect the State Fair Center out there. Now, as the Mouse rises in Minot downstream, Velva says it is in pretty good shape. The Mouse in Velva is sitting at 1508.6. Now, that is from an earlier reading. That was tonight, and it's projected to rise just 4 feet to another new high for the city, which saw a previous crest at 1510.3 earlier this month. They're protected up to 1515. Still, the new high is making the city take caution, preparing but not yet implementing road closures and staging sandbags if they're needed. City Commissioner Paul Thomas says with the high water, they do see some seepage through the dikes, but they'll be watching for any breaches. However, one big worry this week is the city's sewage system.
Actually went down on us last night. We got those fixed. We had to bring in some additional pumping equipment just to make sure that our lift system didn't back up on us. So we're really asking residents, again, just please make sure you're pumping your sump pumps out into the city storm sewers, not into our regular sewer system.
Thomas says many people in Velva are opening their doors to friends and families from Minot, Logan, and Sawyer's flood zones. Well, not that it ever ended, but today's news, it's as if the flood has started all over again. The flood fight of 2011 has been like a horrible roller coaster ride. Feelings of hope dashed yet again. Knowing a mandatory evacuation is imminent and wanting to save as much as possible, many folks decided to take action now before it becomes mandatory.
And I couldn't take it anymore with the worry, and I called the movers and they were available and they're here. Thank goodness. They're packing me all up and I'm gone for the duration.
Now, while evacuations will be mandatory, many still hope to save their homes by staying ahead of the game. It's now just a matter of prioritizing what needs to go and how much to take.
This time around, I think we're planning more long term. So, you know, I do some woodworking, so we got power tools to take out of here. Basically, you know, we're thinking of sentimental value, financial value, and then anything after that, kind of. So take that stuff into consideration, I guess, as we get there.
Okay. And it certainly is going to be a long few days until those mandatory evacuations come on Wednesday. Now, thousands of people will be evacuating this week, probably thousands more than the 10,000 who originally left their homes nearly 3 weeks ago. But today, Catherine Ross visited some neighborhoods where not everyone is giving up on giving in to Mother Nature just yet.
With new reports of up to 17,000 cubic feet per second pouring out of Lake Darling by Thursday, for some, resistance is turning to resignation.
We started out the day with the plans of sandbagging and building up the dike system around the area, and everyone kind of gave up and we're just moving. Everyone's just moving out now.
Under the worst of circumstances, people around here have gotten pretty efficient on the assembly line, moving precious cargo back and forth as predictions change.
Well, 2 weeks ago we had a big crew here and moved everything out and moved everything back, or started moving back in this last weekend, and now we're moving it all back out again.
Between Minot and Burlington, it's become every man for himself, unless you find your way to this happy group of volunteers. Sandbagging through a downpour, a last-ditch effort for Brooks Addition and the Robinwood neighborhood.
There's always hope.
They're digging in as some head for higher ground, and others hope for a miracle.
Hopefully we can salvage our house, and just have to see what happens from there.
You don't know. It might be enough just to save one house, two, a whole neighborhood. You don't give up.
Resignation, resistance, and resiliency all coming together as we ride out this dark hour. Catherine Ross, KX News.
These hours turning to days, possibly weeks, as the mouse is expected to hit that 1564.4 on June 27th. We just want to remind everyone to make sure to check out our Facebook page, and that is facebook.com/KXNewsMinot. You can check out a lot of the different information that's coming across throughout the community right now. Some of the people are actually saying if looking for anyone who needs help. A couple of people are actually looking for help with hauling some of the furniture and other goods out of their home. So precious items, things like that. So a lot of information being passed along on Facebook, and again, you can find that on Facebook, the address on your screen. We still have a lot more to come on this KX long extended edition of KX News at 10 Flood Fight 2011. We'll be back with more and Tom Schrader's full weather forecast.
You're watching KX News in high definition. News with Sean Sitma and Alicia Hunt. Meteorologist Tom Schrader and Mike Elm Sports.
And here's a look at our almanac numbers for today. In Minot, we only topped off at 65 degrees. Typically, that high is around that 77 mark. The low just 62. Almost 13 inches of rain to this date, and we'll add to that as we get those totals in from today, tomorrow. In Williston, the high 67 degrees. That average high 79. The low 57. Again, they're right around that 13-inch mark as well. That's over double what they typically have for rain at this time of the year, Tom.
And, you know, we have more on the way. And so rain showers are still likely tonight. Now, there has been some heavy rain in the past 3 hours, and it's kind of been a bullseye around Tagus, which is southwest of Donnybrook. And they had about 2 inches of rain around Tagus, and then there's a pretty widespread area of you know, ½ inch to 1 inch of rain south of Kenmare over to Carpio, and we're talking about that's just in the last 3 hours. So rain showers are still likely. It's still possible to have some heavy rain. There should not be very many more thunderstorms tonight. So I guess that would be kind of the upside here, is thunderstorms, which have been producing the heaviest rain today, seem to be winding down. Now, as we look at the forecast for tomorrow, there still could be a few thunderstorms. You know, we're probably not looking at severe weather today. We had numerous funnel clouds spotted. I think we had funnel clouds spotted up around Crosby, around Noonan, I believe. Also, we had a tornado warning for western McLean County, and we had tornado warnings down in around Center, I believe. I don't think we're set up for that tomorrow. Now, heavy rain is certainly possible tomorrow. The dew points are pretty high, but I don't see a tremendous amount of thunderstorms tomorrow. And then tomorrow night into Wednesday, it looks like, at least if you're west of Minot, the rain or storm should be ending. If you're east of Minot, and Minot's kind of on the edge, you could hang on. So I don't think we're looking at severe weather tomorrow night either. Here are the temperatures. They're in the low 60s. It really hasn't had much of a spread today. The dew points have been pretty high. They've come down a little bit in central North Dakota. They were in the low 60s, so a bit of a drop, but not a lot. That's still a real high dew point for temperatures that are in the 60s. Now, here's the radar and the satellite over the last 12 hours, and you can see, you know, the heaviest rain right now, the biggest batch of rain is off to the east of Williston and west of Minot right now, but we're not seeing a lot of the yellows there. We're seeing some of that. Here's our HD precision radar, and there certainly is some heavy rain falling right now in Montreal County. And I want to get back, while you're looking at this, to the radar estimated rainfall. And I was talking to Sean about this a little bit ago. And I was, when I was talking about the widespread heavy rain, I was more concerned with what was falling to the northwest of Minot, because that's the rain that we're going to have to deal with. There was very heavy rain east of Minot earlier today. Now that's falling on some farmland that certainly can't hold it. I don't mean to downplay that significance at all. That rain will be going into the Mouse River heading up into Canada, but around West Hope, from West Hope to Upham to just around Glenburn, just east of Lansford, and there are areas there, according to the radar, could have received in the past 24 hours 2.5 and possibly 3 inches of rain, especially a little southeast of West Hope. So that is a tremendous amount of rain. Very heavy rain around Velva. We're looking at roughly 2 inches, some spots possibly a little bit more. And then, of course, yesterday in Montreal County near Plaza had nearly 5 inches of rain. And then up by Lignite, it looks like rain still possible, and widespread, ½ inch to an inch, 1.5 inch rainfall certainly still going on. Now this is the precision cast. This is a forecast model. This is an actual radar, and this is lining up pretty well with what's going on. We saw on the real radar a little bit ago around Stanley, a little bitty thunder shower there. Well, the forecast model's picking up on that. So what this does, it gives us a pretty good handle on at least what's going on. It may not necessarily pick up exactly where every thunderstorm is going to fire, but you can see during the overnight hours, I mean, there's still a little green, but most of the rain is going to be well off to the west. Now, for those of you watching in Williston, you have your own issues over there, saturated ground, I understand that, and that still could be heavy rain for you, so you do need to know that. But the big heavy rain is going to be down in South Dakota overnight, and then kind of rotating up to Fargo and possibly Grand Forks. Now, tomorrow afternoon, there's still little dots of green there, and any one of those with those high dew points could trigger a pretty good little heavy rain shower. Shouldn't last long, but it's pretty easy to see, and this just updated on me just in the past couple of minutes. That moved the edge of rain back west a little bit, so I think even tomorrow night we might be looking at a little bit of rain in Minot, and that could last into Wednesday morning. It looks to be pretty light with the heaviest rain around Grand Forks, and I think that's where most of the action is going to be shifting to. So the forecast for the next 7 days, I've got slowly climbing temperatures. We're still going to be below average, it looks like, for the next 7 days. But Sean, there have been pockets of heavy rain. I don't want to downplay that. But it looks like Thursday and Friday we might get a chance to dry out a little bit. Another system looks to be poised for the northern plains over the weekend. However, at this point, it does not look like a huge storm. Like the 2-3 inches of rain at this point. Now, of course, if things change, we'll let you know. But as of right now,
and I don't know what it has been about this year, but things have continued to change, and very little of it in our favor whatsoever. Now, you kind of pointed out that you were talking about the rain northwest of our area, because that's what we're dealing with when we get heavier rain amounts up in the Souris River Basin, the Mouse River Basin. I guess we have to refer to it as both names, right. But Mayor Jerome Grunberg talked about in the press conferences today that they're building those levees up to handle that 15,000 CFS and maybe a little more if they can get it up there. But as he pointed out, that if they get heavy rain events in the Des Lacs River system, all bets are off, because that Des Lacs River comes in flowing so much faster than even the Mouse from those elevations that it comes down on. So,
well, and what I don't know, because there has definitely been some pretty substantial rain in the Des Lacs, but I don't know, because the hydrologist and the Corps are working with those numbers. I don't know if what they're looking at today has been figured in or not. Mm-hmm. That's just an unknown.
Well, and when we would have to talk about a very substantial amount of rain right now, considering what we're aiming for with the amount of water coming down the Mouse with those CFS releases, it would actually take, my guess is, something substantial to make a very big impact.
Well, there's there's some spots around Tagus and stuff. They've got a couple inches of rain there.
We'll have to keep our eye on those river flows then through Foxholm and that area.
Oh, by the way, at midnight, the hydrograph that we use, it appears to be updating every 6 hours. So it updated at 6 o'clock or 7 o'clock tonight. So later on tonight, because we're going to be here all night, that should update. And so for at least Minot, I'm thinking we will have another 6 hours worth of data projection to see whether it stays the same, goes up, or goes down. But that'll happen tonight, and of course we'll be here.
And that's going to be key for that town of Burlington, who's going to try. They've got less levee area, linear mileage, let's say, for dikes to raise. So they may be able to fight this one. Possibly, like they said, they're going to fight it till the end. But the Des Lacs right now is that wild card.
That's a big wild card.
Absolutely. Thanks, Tom. And we'll be right back with our extended 10 o'clock KX News in high definition, 2011 flood fight in just a little more, and talk more about sandbagging in Burlington. And welcome back. Well, Burlington is under a mandatory evacuation order. A massive volunteer sandbagging effort began today in Burlington to raise its city levels about a foot. Starting at 8 this morning, they were taking on that two-prong approach, filling bags and adding them to the city's levee system for that extra height. Volunteers are old hands at the sandbagging process after a spring and early summer of high water, but they say they're more than happy to help. And while the process and their goals are pretty simple, they hope it wouldn't come to this yet again.
We just fill them up and then tie them up, and there's a couple of trailers that are hauling them down there, and guys are putting them on the dike.
I think just to fill the dike raised up and save people's homes.
I thought the last time we did it, we were in good shape until you went up to Canada and came back with that bad news, Jim.
And Burlington is also adding to that secondary levee system to protect the city. Unfortunately, that leaves some of the homes diked in with the river, but people on River Road are hoping for the best, even if they're on that wrong side of the dike.
Is the new dike, and behind my barn is the old dike, and that's where they're worried about because there's leakage on the old dike.
Yeah.
I'm going to stay here until they say you have to leave, because I want to watch my basement and make sure it doesn't fill up with too much water.
And that have to leave is going to be coming Wednesday at 6 o'clock in Burlington, according to Mayor Jerome Grunberg from the press conferences earlier this evening. But Burlington says they still need sandbag volunteers. Any bit of time, they said, certainly will help, and they can meet at City Hall for that. But we have been battling water all today. Some of us have been evacuating our homes. Did we get any sports in? I don't even know.
Well, there was, and it kind of takes a backseat to what's happening, but there was some sports action, and we're going to head to the eastern part of the state for that right off the top here. In the state's top high school volleyball players were in Fargo tonight, site of the Optimus volleyball match. Now, that event matches up the state's top players in an East versus West game, so let's head over to Fargo for some of the action in this one, and we'll pick it up here early on. Watford City's Danny Bates, and she would come up at the kill here for the West, and the West would take a 10-6 lead. Later on, our Redeemers Lady Knights' Mattia Grigsby would come up, and she puts it where the defense can't get it. The West would take a 16-13 lead after this point, as Kenmare coach Tim Wallstrom, one of the West coaches, looking on in this one. Same set, more West. Watford City's Marty Qualley sets to Jamestown's Nikki Schmitz for the kill. West takes set 1, 25-23. Now set 2, the East would rally. Mariah Scraw from Lidgerwood gets the kill off the block, and the East comes back to win the next two, and it would be the East All-Stars going on to get the West by the final of actually 2-1 was the final there. The second match will be tomorrow, and that will be in Bismarck. Area sports teams are dealing with the impending flood. Supporters of Magic City Youth Baseball helped load up concession items at Corbett Field late this afternoon, and we're headed next to the Jack Hova Complex to do the same thing. Now, field equipment also is being ready to move to higher ground, and like most organizations that are being threatened by flood waters, it takes a group effort to help out in difficult times.
We're moving all the freezers, all the soda, all the refrigerators, everything is moving either to higher ground or we're moving it to coal papers, which will help us store all our equipment coming from here and at Hoven. Okay. We're moving both fields. So we have some of the board members are here. We've had some of the parents show up to help us out. And between helping people evacuate from their homes and helping us here, we've got the baseball players are helping us out as well. So we're thankful for the help.
And then. And the Vista's home games tomorrow against Williston and Thursday against Jamestown have also been postponed. And the Minot Vista salvaged the final game of the weekend tournament with a 16-3 win over Oak Grove, Missouri, which helped snap an 8-game losing streak. The Vistas are scheduled to move back into league play tomorrow when they host Williston, followed by a game with Jamestown on Thursday. But both doubleheaders could be in question with the developing flood situation. Now, the Vistas current sit in 4th place in the league standings and are tied with the Williston Keybirds. Now, those two games have been postponed, as has the Jamestown game later this week, so we'll have to catch up and see when the Vistas' next action will be. Meanwhile, MSU wrestling signings, and these 4 players have signed next year to wrestle for Minot State. You take a look at well, Josh Douglas. Also, we have Anthony Pagan, James Stanley, as well as Chad Sickles, all coming to the Beavers next year. When we come back, we'll see how things are happening on the Major League Baseball diamond. We'll do that right after this. Game series in San Francisco tomorrow night, but the team did have a chance to gain some ground on division-leading Cleveland as the Indians hosted Colorado in the first of a 3-game series. So let's head to some of the highlights from this one and pick it up here in the bottom of the first. Travis Hafner at the plate, and the North Dakota native just off the injured reserve list yesterday. Conexio on a 3-run shot to right field. The Indians took a 3-1 lead. Bottom of the fourth now, Carlos Santana at the plate, and he launches a 2-out solo blast. This one to right field as well. I made it 4-1 in favor of the Indians, but the Cleveland pitching would not hold up tonight. Top of the fifth, Jason Giambi, he connects with a 3-run home run to center field. And that made it 7-4 in favor of the Rockies. They go on to win it by the final of 8-7 over Cleveland. Baltimore got Pittsburgh by the final of 8-3. Also, it was the Angels leading Florida in the ninth 2-1. The Yankees down Cincinnati 5-3. Boston over San Diego 14-5. The Braves shut out Toronto 2-0. Texas over Houston 8-3. The Cubs double up the White Sox. Elsewhere, it was Tampa Bay leading Milwaukee in the ninth, and also the Dodgers are shutting out Detroit 1-0 that in the fifth. St. Louis Cardinals first baseman Albert Pujols will be out 4 to 6 weeks with a fractured left forearm. Pujols was injured in yesterday's game against Kansas City on a play at first base in the 6th inning. The Cardinals' 3-time MVP is hitting .279 this year and also injured his left shoulder, but no structural damage was found. Top-seeded Rafael Nadal held off an early upset bid by Michael Russell in first-round play of the Wimbledon tennis tournament. Nadal fell behind early 4-2 in the first set, but bounced back, winning the next 4 games to claim the first set en route to a straight set win. So let's head to the All England Club for a couple of highlights in this one. Pick it up here in the first set. Russell up 3-2 as you see some of the fans looking on, and Russell here with the backhand drop shot here for the winner in the far court, and he would go up 40-30, setting up the break point. He would break to go up 4-2, but Nadal comes back here as he rips the running forehander down the line. He would take that first set 6-4. Meanwhile, on to the third set now. Nadal with the forehand winner, and in the far court, watch him just, he rips it right down the line here for the point. He would take a 5-1 lead, and then match point, Nadal wins it here. Russell passing shot would go into the net, and Nadal goes on to win this one in straight sets. As we take a look at some of the other men's top winners, also Andy Murray winning, and on the women's side of things, Vera Zvonareva wins that match. Finally, Spanish point guard Ricky Rubio arrived in the Twin Cities today, and about 200 people were waiting in the Minneapolis-St. Paul airport to greet him. The Timberwolves made him their first-round pick in 2009, but Rubio did not decide to sign with the team until recently, and Rubio will hold a press conference tomorrow morning, so we'll see.
Exciting news for them.
Well, we'll see if it helps the Timberwolves.
Now, one thing I've actually been wondering quite a bit about is Corbett Field. As we head into evacuations come Wednesday, obviously Corbett Field fits into that evacuation zone. Have they talked about moving games?
Well, they are undecided right now what they're going to do with the games. They're kind of taking it week by week. They're hoping this won't be more than a week setback, but these 2 games this week are canceled, and we'll kind of go along and see what plays out, I guess, so to speak. But it could be a while before they get back on their field. It all depends on the situation.
All depends on the river and how high it goes and how long it lasts.
That's right.
All right, thanks, Mike. We'll be right back with more from our KX News at 10, extended edition 2011 flood coverage. And welcome back to KX News at 10, extended edition, Flood Fight 2011. I'm Sean Sitman, taking you through to the 6 a.m. hour now as we continued our round-the-clock coverage. Just to recap the big story of the day, the Mouse River is expected to hit that all-time highest crest ever, coming in at Monday at 16.6 thousand CFS, cresting at 1564.4. Now, Mike, go ahead. We've got that video from 1969. I say video because we've transferred it to video, but it was actually filmed. Ramstead School in 1969, with the latest projections that the National Weather Service is giving us, that it will be 9 feet higher, 8 to 9 feet higher than what you're actually seeing on here. Perkett Elementary right there. There was actually, this is the Oak Park shopping area right there. There was sandbagged off, but 9 feet higher from the 1969 flood. This is just on the, I believe, the west edge. Is there's Perkett Elementary. You can see how undeveloped it was even back then, but houses, just little islands out there, and it's almost hard to believe. Even for me, who lives in the valley, I was trying to figure this out on my house, where 9 more feet from that 69 flood will be on my house, and it's something unfathomable.
I'm having a hard time, even with these numbers, I'm having a hard time picturing how my mind won't let me or what, but I can't picture this.
As I've stood at the edge of my street, 4th Avenue, and have watched the river day after day after day. To think that there's that much more water that will come over the top, it's hard to believe.
And the 69 flood, I remember, came up to about 20th Street Northwest, and that many more feet. I gotta believe it might come all the way up to 25th, you know, the way it did that year. So it was.
Well, and that's one of the main things they want to talk about too. I think they're going to address that tomorrow during their early press conference. Is they've already identified all of the evacuation zones that will take place Wednesday at 10 p.m. That is the get out time, but they are looking at some of those maps and redoing the numbers and figuring out if this elevated water, it will be the highest ever water through Minot, if more places will be added into that evacuation.
So are they going
zone.
to be coming up with a new inundation map? Is that what it's called?
Well, I would almost be certain to say that some areas will be added, and along with that now they're going to have to take into effect the count that some of the dikes that are going up the secondaries to protect Broadway, that is going to be the main artery that is going to be protected through Minot, and then all of the bridges, all other bridges within the valley are going to be closed off as that evacuation goes into effect. When that water does come up, and they're projecting Friday morning west of town over in that not east side of States, but Teresita Vallejo area. Those bridges will be inaccessible anyway once that water comes up.
And I know that because we're up over 10,000 on Facebook right now, almost 10,100. And some of the comments that I've been seeing, people trying to get to some of these sites and are a little unable to do so, but so many people are trying to get it. It just might be overloading the system a little bit. Don't know that for a fact, but just might want to keep trying to get some of these, you know, internet sites.
Absolutely. A lot of information that's actually being asked of us and asked of local businesses. One of them was for boxes in Minot. A lot of people are trying to pack up their homes right now, whether it's Apple boxes, whether packing boxes, things like that. Any business in town, we're asked to basically ask you to save those boxes, put them aside, and go ahead, jump on our Facebook page and let people know where they can come to pick them up. We've only got a couple of days now, Wednesday at 10 o'clock, to come and get them.
Yep. One of the things I mentioned about the bridges around town is if this does rise, or as it does rise, just traffic itself, there won't be too many main thoroughfares, so a lot of people are going to have to plan way ahead to get from one side of town to the other. It could get very tricky, but...
Very good point. As we're heading out to Burlington today for the press conference, right there on the bypass at the stoplight down by Beam's truck stop, it was a proverbial traffic jam. There are cars backed up, I would say at least 100 yards at times. Especially with some of those big trucks that the National Guard is out there. I think it was the Highway Patrol earlier, but the National Guard is also out there directing traffic, and they're trying to get those trucks hauling clay through quicker. But you have to plan extra time right now. That was one thing they talked about when I was doing interviews for the 40th anniversary of the 69 flood, is that the main thoroughfare of Minot at that time, they put a dike down Minot, but the main thoroughfares, you had to drive all the way around to get to where you needed to be if it was on North Hill or South Hill.
And especially if it's come from the west, if Burlington, you know, out in that area, and then if the bypass starts to be closed, how far you have to go west, you may have to go east to get around town. I mean, everyone will have to kind of figure that out.
I'm fairly certain the DOT and the Corps has talked about maintaining that bypass opening, so hopefully that can hold true.
But all the other bridges are going to be closed. Like I go up 3rd Street to go home, and the traffic tonight, I ran home after our meeting tonight for a few minutes, and just tremendous amount of traffic, and that's going to be closed. So I mean, that's all going to have to go to Broadway.
Yeah, it'll be down to just one maybe.
The other piece that they talked about too, with the Corps addressing during some of their press conferences, is that with never seeing water flows like this ever through Minot, and that's dating back to, what is the old date, 1880 or 1898 or somewhere along those lines. I'll have to look that up in a moment. But this is uncharted water, so to speak, in Minot, so they're not wholly sure how high exactly this water is going to get in Minot, and that's why I was talking about adding some of those areas to those zones, is that once they crunch all the numbers, this water literally could go into places that it's never been in recorded history since Minot became Minot, when we were a lowly Buffalo Bones town on the frontier.
You know, and you got to kind of wonder, is that good or bad? And it could go both ways. On one hand, if it goes someplace it's never been before, it's certainly bad for those people, but would that bring the overall elevation down if it spreads out farther? I mean, we just don't know. This has never happened.
Right.
And certainly we just have to express any heartfelt feelings going out to, you know, let's be honest, there's well over 10,000 people now in the evacuation zones. Mayor Jerome Grunberg talked about that. He is also Ward County Commissioner, aside from being the mayor of Burlington, that it's not just the city of Minot, it's not just the city of Burlington, but we're talking about the Apple Grove, the East Side Estates, the Brooks Addition, Teresita Vallejo, between all those areas between Minot and Burlington, all those areas to the east of Minot. And then, as we talked about earlier with the DeLac system, Grunberg even mentioned that as that water comes down the Mouse, that will start backing up into that DeLac system. And now you're also talking about River Road area, that area that has had tendencies with floods from that runoff in the spring from the melt. And it's just never ending, it seems like.
And once it's here, you know, it's here. So, like I think I said during the press conferences over the last few weeks, is plan ahead and be ahead of it a little bit as much as you can and prepare for it.
And we're going to see sustained flows, according to the Army Corps of Engineers, as they have to, once Darling is full, they have to pass everything through. Obviously, they can't start letting it go over the dike system itself or the dam system.
I mean,
absolutely,
that's a whole other issue.
That's one thing they won't allow to happen. So they will pass through any of that water, and we are expected to sustain high river flows, which will be flood level over the dike systems for some time.
And one thing I can say from looking at the radar and checking rain gauges and things like that today, there was a substantial amount of rain that will be flowing into the DeLac. I mean, we had widespread area of inch and a half, some places a little bit more. But looking up into southern Saskatchewan, we got a site now that we can look at pretty much every farmer that has a rain gauge up there. We can look at theirs, and the rain in Canada in 24 hours anyway. I'm not talking about yesterday, 2 days ago, but for 24 hours it hasn't been that bad. And they were projecting an inch of rain bullseye from tonight through tomorrow night. Tonight is 7 through tomorrow night is 7. As of right now, that hasn't happened. Now, we still have quite a few hours to go there, but the numbers I was seeing was 0.15 of an inch, 0.2, one spot was 0.4 of an inch, as opposed to 2 inches or 3 inches in the past 24 hours.
And any more rain they get will just inevitably mean the longer flood fight that we have, or flood flow, let's be honest.
And of course, the stuff that's falling now is going to be going into the DeLac, which just races right into Burlington.
Absolutely. Any last little tidbits when we talk about sports, Mike?
Well, just one thing, Twins 7-game win streak. If there's a little bit of a bright sunshine right now and all this, we can follow the Twins, and they're going for their 8th in a row tomorrow night. They'll be on the West Coast taking on San Francisco.
We would have never thought. You would have told me that a month ago. They would have had 2 in a row.
Yeah.
I would have been happy.
They are a hot team, hottest in the league right now. So.
All right. Well, thank you, Mike. And,
yeah.
Wow.
Well, at least there's a bright spot somewhere.
Yeah, that's right.
Well, it sounds good. We are going to continue our extended coverage around the clock here with Flood Fight 2011 here on KX News Live, and we will take a short break, and we're going to come back and talk a little bit about preparing our homes and all of that stuff as we prepare to evacuate right after the break.
From KX News in high definition, this is a special report, Flood Fight 2011.
And welcome back. It is just 2 minutes to the top of the hour of 11 o'clock now as we continue our round-the-clock coverage of this Flood Fight 2011. Sean Sitma in here with you. I'll be along with you until 6 a.m. as we continue to update of any of the current changes that happen on the Mouse River through Minot, and along with that, Burlington and any other reading sites and areas within our viewing area of the Mouse River. We've got lots and lots to talk about, certainly as the evacuations continue around the clock right now. Just talking with some of the people during the break here, I could tell you that quite a few people are still evacuating their homes, trying to save as much as they can, as that projected crest is expected at 1564.4 on Monday. Now, those river levels will continue to increase. Friday, they are expected that river flow through Minot at the Broadway Bridge at 10,000 CFS, and that is going to increase then on Saturday to 12,000, and then bumped up throughout the day to 14,500. Sunday, that number goes to 15,000, and by Monday, right now, from the latest readings from the National Weather Service, they are saying 16.6 thousand CFS through Minot at the Broadway Bridge, bringing that elevation to 1564.4. That will break the all-time record by several feet at the Broadway Bridge on the Mouse River. That record set all the way back in 1881. Thank you, Misty. I couldn't pull that number out of the hat earlier. If you're looking for some of the information that is being passed in and around our area, Mike, go ahead and throw up that Facebook web address again. That is facebook.com/KXNewsMinot. We have had certainly a lot of people writing in on our Facebook page throughout the day, and this really is just a plethora of information that has been coming not only from individuals in Minot that are they're also in Burlington and Logan and Sawyer and all sorts of areas, people from West Hope that are talking about coming down, looking for anybody who may need some help evacuating. If you're looking for places where you can take your animals. Also, I've seen posts on here that the North Central Research Extension Center will once again be taking animals as this evacuation goes into full force. I'm guessing even more so tomorrow, as the city of Minot has to be evacuated by 10 o'clock Wednesday night. In Burlington, that evacuation is actually set for 6 p.m. on Wednesday. And I have to grab my paper here. But the vast majority of Burlington is within that mandatory evacuation, and you can go to www.burlingtonflood.com to basically find this exact picture, and it'll tell you what areas are within the mandatory and what areas are within the recommendation. But certainly all areas just to the northeast of the railroad essentially is within that recommended, and then the majority of that then is in the mandatory. But again, that is www.burlingtonflood.com. And while we're on the subject of Burlington, they are continuing to sandbag. From the sounds of it, talking with Mayor Jerome Grunberg today, that they will continue to sandbag around the clock. They are going even at this hour, as I am told, continue to sandbag. They will be placing levees, hoping to raise the levee system through Burlington at least 1 foot. They're going for at least 1 foot to handle that 12,000 plus CFS flow through Burlington. And like Mr. Grunberg had said, that they were hoping to buy some time, and if not, maybe even possibly hold back the Mouse River. However, he did also mention that there is the real possibility of losing that flood fight, and if that should come, they will fight to the end, but if that should come, they will sound those sirens in Burlington. And one thing that we have to point out is that when those sirens blare in Burlington, that is the immediate notification that you have to get out now. That isn't the recommendation, but they're saying right now, because that means that the water has breached if those sirens should sound. In Minot now, we have also addressed that issue of the sirens, seeing as this is severe weather season. People are wondering, well, what if we get a tornado in Minot or severe weather that would that would require that? And I believe it is only the tornado when they sound those sirens. But you have to listen for the message. There will be a message that follows that siren blare of what the emergency is. But I've talked with Chief Ballantyne, Minot Police Chief, and he has said that that is one of the very immediate indications that that water is going over the levees, and they will sound those sirens when that happens, or if there is a breach before that Wednesday 10 p.m. evacuation time. Also, they will be using that reverse 911 system. That is the generic name. It's the reverse emergency notification system, as talking with Ward County, acting Ward County Emergency Manager Amanda Schooling, that those will also be used when and if there is a breach for the immediate evacuation before that Wednesday 10 p.m. Now, all of the SRT customers, if you have a landline, are logged into that reverse emergency alert system. Also, those people that have those cell phones through SRT are also included on that. Now, we have had discussions on whether or not you need a P.O. box if you need to still call and get your name on that list, and they did indicate that those were on that list. If you're some of us that have Verizon or AT&T now within the Magic City, you also need to call that number, and there it is on that flood hotline, 858-9366, to get your name and your address to be included on that list. Now, there is a little bit of lag time. Initially, it was that 30-day mark. Once you called, it was going to take 30 days. Well, they've worked out a deal with SRT and with the company that they get that subscription through, that it is about a 1 to 2 day turnaround, maybe less depending on when you call and when they're submitting their new list, but it is going to be a little bit of a lag time. So as Chief Ballantyne said in one of our previous interviews, that if you just call that and you have a cell phone, you don't have a landline, have a plan. If you have a friend who's already on that list, has been on that list for many days, or know somebody up on the hill, make sure that you let them know that if you're staying down in the valley until Wednesday night, have that plan to have them give you a call if that reverse 911 is used or something along that nature. And again, only the people within the evacuation zones, though, will be notified when that reverse alert system calls go out. So it's all evacuation zones will be the ones notified, not the numbers on the valley. Mike, I think we're going to go ahead and take a look at some of the graphics that have been put together as we start to evacuate our homes in the valley. And this one has come from Lori Sharmer from the NDSU Extension Office here in Minot. Thank you so much, Lori, for helping us out with some of this information. But what we're talking about is preparing your home for flooding. There are some very key issues that we need to address as we leave our homes. Certainly turn off your electricity. That means going down to your panel box, or there are actually some of us that still have the old fuses, but you need to turn off the electricity. And that's either just flipping the breaker or turning down the lever on that fuse box. But also you have water and gas. Most water meters just have the little turn nozzle in your house. The gas, now, there's a couple of things that you can do with the gas. Certainly MDU is going to be going around and turning off those gas mains after that mandatory evacuation in Minot Wednesday night at 10 p.m. You can also maybe even call a service repairman for suggestions on whether you want to turn off the gas on the inside of the house. Make sure you get most of your valuables, hazardous materials above the expected water level. And again, that expected water level is on the unprecedented levels of 1556.4. So it would be very difficult for a lot of us to really get an idea of where that's going to be in our house unless you have a really good GPS finder and are able to get that to work inside of your house. If you live outside of town and have, say, a propane tank, or you have some of those little propane cylinders for your gas grill, you need to anchor those down. Full or not full, those propane tanks float away. And we've seen that during the spring melt, things like that. They have to be anchored to the ground with very deep anchors, because as the water begins to saturate, as it will when it floods, those propane tanks outside of town very easily could float away. And that does create some of a little bit of a hazardous situation if you have propane leaking out of a busted line and things like that. So a little thing to think about there. Also, the drain plugs. We've been talking about this for weeks, and we should probably spend a little time talking about this. Have you plugged your drains, Tom?
Actually, no. I'm up very high, and I've been watching it closely. I have not.
I'm gonna get on your case here now, because Alan Walter.
Everybody in Minot?
Everybody in Minot on the lowest level of your home. So we're talking about your basement, your floor drains, your sink, your shower. If your laundry is down there, believe it or not.
How do you do your laundry then? I'm just asking because we didn't do this.
Okay, so your laundry, the easiest way to do this is you need to take out, you have the hose where your washer dumps into. You can take a tape measure and measure that hose, and you can go to a couple of different places, whether it's Max, to Menards, or whoever sells drain plugs, and you need to get a drain plug that size, stick it into that PVC, and then tighten her down. See, the day that I plugged mine, they didn't have any drain plugs in town, and that's when the sewer main collapsed down by Roosevelt Park Zoo, and I cheated. I went out and got a cap for a PVC pipe and some PVC glue, and I just glued mine shut, which is a permanent thing, though. When I come back to my house, maybe in August, whenever that is, when our water goes down, I actually have to cut then that PVC pipe, splice it, and do all of that fun stuff. But Alan Walter said, certainly we are going to see more sewer line collapses in town, and that is going to be, I think, more prevalent as the Mouse tops its banks, as it is expected to sometime Friday morning. He said that the systems...
I'm going to ask this as somebody who hasn't done it.
Okay.
And just an example, and I will use my house because I know there's other houses that are like that, especially in my neighborhood. But I think my next door neighbors did that. But so if you have like a toilet,
yep,
you need to take the toilet off and plug that.
This has been a little area of contention. There are a lot of people that have talked about, well, you can just, they sell the plugs that go right into the stool. Talking with some plumbers who went through the '69 flood, there was a nice gentleman that we had a very long conversation with. He says what could happen, not will happen, but what very easily could happen is that there is a wax ring at the base of your stool that when it's mounted on, it's put in to basically seal your stool to the pipe. And what they saw in 1969 is that the gas levels, the pressure in that system became so much that it actually blew out that wax ring. So now you have a plug in your stool, but the water is coming in below that plug because your wax ring is gone, and now it's flowing out at the base of your stool. If the sewer should happen to back up in your area. So the best suggestion for a lot of people is to actually remove that stool, and that's fairly easy actually. Is you just need to shut off the water off your tank, and then unhook it off the basin. And there's only two little screws you can use with a crescent wrench, and remove that, pull the stool up. There's going to be water in there, so plan for a little bit of water coming out because of that drain trap within the stool system. And you know, put the plug in at the base there, and see, I should have remembered what size that was. I want to say it was a 2-inch plug, but I could be wrong in that, but maybe 1.5 inches, I can't remember. You can grab a tape measure, measure right across the opening, and that's what you're going to be looking for. The other things a lot of people have been concerned with is the sinks. Now, one thing a lot of people don't think about is that, okay, they can take the sink out, their drain out, and then put it right in the sink. Well, there's a little problem with that. Most sinks nowadays have that overflow catch. And that, if the sewer were to come up, it's going to come up through that overflow through the sink past that drain plug that's in the sink. So what you have to do is go behind the drain trap, which is going to be underneath the sink. Also, you might want to get a bucket to catch some of that water that is going to come out. It is not going to smell very good, but you need to take and plug it behind the drain trap.
So for those of us that were praying for gravity to be our best friend here, not necessarily is going to be the case.
No, actually on the hills is where we've seen most of the sewer backups in Minot, simply because the water table is so high right now on the hills. We have a perched water table in Minot because of the vast clay layers, as we've seen as they've been tearing into that hill on Magic City campus to get the clay to put on the dike systems. Well, that's what's below most of our houses. Clay doesn't let water through, so that water, when it seeps down through that very little bit of soil, actual black dirt we have on the hills, that's why our water table is so high on the hills. And along with that, the pressure on the sewer systems. And I cannot stress enough, and I have been talking to more and more people trying to convince them that you need to get your sump pumps out of the sanitary sewer system. One of the guys I talked to was, well, mine only runs every couple of minutes. Well, every couple of minutes, that's dumping a lot of water into the sewer system.
You know, and I got to say this. I've been driving around before, tonight, and driving around places near the river and looking at houses to see if I could see hoses. Like one of our photographers, Galen S., his hose is going out into the street. And I drive not just his neighborhood, but a lot of other neighborhoods, and I don't see many hoses. So where's that water going? If there's some pumping near the river, I'm not seeing it going. I'm not trying to bust anybody, but it just appears driving around that there's a lot of people that are just saying, well, maybe one house won't hurt. Well, you get all these one houses, it's adding up.
It's adding up, certainly. I will say this, driving down, I have to think where I was going down here. I think it was on 6th Street over by the new Washington School. I have started to see quite a few new hoses coming out of basements that I've never seen before.
Just recently, though.
Just recently, because of the issue of sewer backup. And to be honest, we need to literally get all of the houses doing that, because I've cleaned up sewage out of a basement before. That is wholly unpleasant. And if we start to see collapses once the river floods, you're going to see them collapsing on the hills as well, because the system is going to be so overwhelmed. And along with that, the city has actually put out, and I have to dig through my piles of paper here, but the city is actually asking to conserve water, because one of the issues that we're kind of dealing with here, and here it is actually. This citizens conserve water in the city of Minot, Burlington, Kenmare, Berthold, and any West River and North Prairie water users. And the reason for this is that a lot of our city wells that pull out of the Sundry Aquifer are right out by that East Side Estates and Apple Grove area. Well, there's a lot of water out there, and a couple of the wells are actually underwater, but they've managed to seal them off, so they're still pumping. But if the water comes up as it is projected to do, they're concerned that some of these wells will shut down, and as they shut down, we lose water making, potable water making capacity within Minot.
Right.
And so I think for the time being, with all the rain, Tom, can we just say shut off the lawn sprinklers, period?
Yeah, do you need to run your sprinkler anyway
no,
with all this
absolutely
rain?
not.
And when we've got, I think we're able to do this now. If you want to shift gears just a little bit here. Now back in the control room, Piper, if you could pull up the radar estimated rainfall. Now what this is what the radar is estimating rainfall to be over this past storm. I've done, it's called the storm total precipitation. And I don't know if you can take off that little bug there that has our logo, or move it or something. Can you blow that up at all? If it kind of, and the little legend is on the right there, and I'm going to move over to where I can see it a little bit better myself on the set here. But the greens, anywhere where you see green, now this is storm total. This isn't just today. This is going to be in the past probably 36 hours. And if you look at Montreal County, where all those reds are, the 5 and 6 inches, that was from yesterday. All right, and that's not to downplay the amount of rain that fell around Plaza, because it was an absolute mess. But what I'm trying to point out here is that will not flow into the Delac. However, if you kind of follow all the greens there, the green, first shade of green is 1 inch, second shade is 1.5 inches, third shade is 2, and then once you start getting into the yellows, you're looking at 2.5 inches of rain. So certainly in Montreal County, there was a tremendous amount of rain. But if you kind of see where Highway 52 is, that's that sign that you see there, kind of at the gooseneck of Ward County. That's up towards Kenmare. So now when you're getting in Kenmare, you're looking at inch and a half of rain. Jim Potter, our weather spotter up there, called it, got 1 inch today, 1/2 inch yesterday. Now that flows into the Delac, Sean. And so that's one of those wild cards, because that goes right to Burlington, doesn't it? And we know that they're figuring in, the Corps of Engineers and the hydrologists are figuring in, they were figuring in about 1 inch and a half of rain in their forecast. So far, this does not seem to be outside that. But we're not done yet, because it's still raining. But right now, there is rain up around Kenmare and also in Renville County. So that's going to add to it, whatever we get overnight. But I just wanted to show that the radar estimated rainfall, the real heavy stuff in Bottineau County. I mean, that's very serious rain, 2.5 inches in central Bottineau County. I'm not saying it isn't serious. That rain, if it falls into the river basin, will be going up into Canada. It's certainly flooding the land there, and I don't want to downplay that at all.
Yeah, we've been taking a good long look at the overland flooding that has been occurring, and it is wholly unpleasant. We talked about the fact that the northern tier of basically North Dakota, northern tier from, I would say, anywhere from Renville County to the west, 10% of the crops planted. So that's certainly not good any which way we put it when we talk about rainfall. I just want to make one correction here. We were talking about the stool mounts, getting those plugs on the stool. That is a 3-inch plug, if you're wondering.
Okay, so, well, I'm making notes now.
Yeah, okay.
I think I'm going to be sending my wife to the hardware store tomorrow.
That's good. Also, the one thing that Lori Sharma was talking about too, when she was talking about evacuating homes, there are a lot of people that have deep freezes and significant amounts of frozen food in their freezer. Well, as we evacuate our homes, we have to make arrangements to get that transported, get it into freezers and things like that. So we have to really think about the broad spectrum of evacuating. And with that, I mean,
we had. Also, I saw something on Facebook earlier tonight. Somebody had a really good idea with when their freezers. They had like gallon jugs, filled them up with water, and made them into blocks of ice. Now, that's certainly not a long-term situation, but it does buy you a little bit of time.
Absolutely. One of the other questions that was, I guess, put out there asking. And that was from Abby on Facebook here. Do we need to plug all of our drains as well? And we're talking about the drains in the lowest level of your home, meaning the basement, or if you have a split level, that lowest level. That is what the Public Works Director, Alan Walter, is telling us right now. And like we mentioned, that is...
And he's saying all the houses. Like I said, I didn't do that. I live up by the airport. I thought I was safe. But we've
had a good number of people in northeast Minot, up on the hill in southwest Minot, calling here with sewer backup issues because the system is overloaded. So that means everybody in Minot, everyone in Burlington, the lowest level of your homes, need to get those drains plugged, as whether you are evacuating or whether you are staying for the duration on the hills and things like that. Looking ahead here as we take a look, Mike, we've got another graphic up here that is talking about actually those drain plugs. Let's just, if we can get that, it's plugging the house drains, and yeah, there we go. It's you know, plug the basement floor drains, remove and prepare appliances for flooding, shut off the fuse box, breaker box, and things like that. And then there is another question that was actually put up there as well. Are we expecting waves of water when this new flow comes in on Friday, as is expected to be around the 10,000 mark, and then ramping up towards that 12,000 CFS on Saturday? And talking with the Army Corps of Engineer folks during the press conferences and listening to them for the last few weeks, is it will not be a wave of water washing down the Mouse River Valley. However, you will be able to see a foot or two rise within an hour or two's time. So it is going to be that gradual rise, but not certainly over days as we have seen over the last few weeks, when we're talking about up an inch here. But when it comes time for these flows to be increased from 10,000 to 12,000 between Friday and Saturday, that is when we're going to see that foot or two rise, within that hour or two time. You know, a couple things I've seen here on Facebook. One, somebody asking about, it says this is a call to KX or any amateur photographers about finding a way to video the river. And Joe Goldaddy is out setting that up right now, as a matter of fact. We're just trying to find a good vantage point. Well, we have one now, and whether we end up using them or Catherine Ross's apartment, because she lives very close by, but Brady Martz has their IT guy called. They're right by the river. We can get on the roof if we want to. I believe Joe's talking to him about maybe being inside at a window. They're going to go out of their way to help us so we can put a HD webcam there right over the river to watch this. So we're going to be able to document this. Joe's working on that right now. This really is a historic event. I mean, and it's certainly not a good one. I want to point that out wholly. I've been up since about 7 o'clock this morning trying to evacuate my own home, trying to get everything out from the basement, the main floor, trying to get as much out of the second floor as I could. This is certainly not a good situation, as the mayor put it. A very sad day for Minot, knowing that we're going to lose the entire valley, whether it's homes or businesses and things like that. But on the other hand, we definitely need to document it as well, because the last time that we even saw flows remotely close to this was 1881. Right. Didn't have any HD cameras back then. No. You know, another thing good about Facebook, there's a lot of people having, there's a lot of people that have relatives in trucks that are able to evacuate the house. Like you've had to do your evacuation twice now. This is number 2. Yeah. We didn't bring it all back the first time. I want to make that wholly clear, as the mayor pointed out, but we did bring a few things back. But of course, now with the water being as high as it's projected, we went for everything. Now on Facebook, I'm seeing places here in town, businesses, and since we didn't post it, I don't want to say the name on the air because I don't know that it's accurate. But go to the Facebook site. You can go to facebook.com/KX News Minot. But like there's businesses in town that says they have 2 trucks
and trailers, and they're willing to help move people in need, no charge other than a gas donation. So that's, you know, people in Minot coming to help other people, and you know, there's a lot of that kind of stuff going around, and you can find that on our Facebook page.
And we have finally uploaded, I shouldn't say finally, because it is a little bit of work.
That's a big fly.
That is a very big fly. Let's actually see if, he took off. From 1969, though, we did get that video uploaded. Eric was kind enough to go ahead and upload that for us. What we've been showing, that was some of the original film that was taken from 1969. Mike, do we have that video? Let's go ahead and roll that one more time, simply because Eric's going to be editing a longer version of that here for us in a little bit. But in 1969, the river went and flowed. There it is. As you can see, the helicopter that was used in 1969, it crested at 1555.4.
And that's Ramstead, right?
Ramstead Middle School,
and it's
right
supposed
there.
to be 7 feet higher than that? 8 feet higher than that?
8 to 9 feet higher than that.
Now, Ramstead has got a dike all the way around it. Is that going to be high enough, do you know? The dike
That's a very good
high.
question. That's a very good question. Right now, my understanding is that they are actually diking to protect infrastructure, which is the schools, City Hall, and things like that. And my guess is if they're taking the time to dike it, they're going to dike it to the level which is going to keep the water out. If you've ever been in Ramstead Middle School, there's actually a sign, a plaque right on the wall as you walk in that was just a little above waist high for me anyway. Maybe a little higher for the kids that are going to school there, but it was actually the flood level from 69, and that was a spring runoff event, spring melt event, unlike this, which is record rainfall after record rainfall, and basically an endurance trial of flood fighting here. So that flood lasted 40 days from that snow melt. And this one is looking out. When did we start actually fighting flood water? Was that April?
Seems like it, but I mean the big stuff started like right after Memorial Day.
Yeah, I mean, it was Memorial Day when the first evacuation came out. It was that Sunday, and then Memorial Day Monday with that torrential rainfall that basically
4 inches up in Donnybrook
that took over the Souris River Basin. Mike, too, if you can go ahead and find, there was a video that we showed earlier that I had taken a few days back of that plaque from that power pole on 4th Avenue and 7th Street Northwest in Minot. It's kind of a good indication of where, as far as street level anyway, of where that flood water was at. And I myself was actually trying to figure out, using my line of sight, on what, you know, even 7, 8, 9 more feet was going to mean for houses in that area. And it really is just an incredible thought that much water is going to be coming through. As we kind of look for that video, I also want to mention, for people who are evacuating and don't have a place to go, a lot of us have friends and families on the Hill, but there are a lot of folks, too, in Minot that live in the valley that, you know, are newcomers to Minot and maybe don't have that network of people yet. But the Minot Auditorium is being set up as the shelter there. The American Red Cross is going to be manning that. There will be, my understanding, meals and showers that will be provided within that extent there. As far as the food, I'm not wholly certain. We'll have to get to the Red Cross to find out exactly what kind of amenities will be provided there. And along with that, the pets, unfortunately, can't be taken to the auditorium. However, the North Central Research Extension Center south of Minot is once again being set up as kind of our pet shelter. They will be able to take, I would say, just most pets within the realm of reason. They had cats, dogs, a couple of rabbits, a gerbil, and a couple other things the last time that we went into evacuation. So what they're asking is if you drop off your pet, certainly your pet some ample food supply, some old blankets that they can lay on, a leash if the pooch has to be taken out for a walk, and they will be taken at the North Central Research Extension Center. It's 11:28 on, I'm even lost on my days on this Monday. We're going to be right back. We'll take a short break and be back with more of this KX News round-the-clock coverage of Flood Fight 2011.
From KX News in high definition, this is a special report, Flood Fight 2011.
And welcome back to this Flood Fight 2011 round-the-clock coverage from KX News here in Minot. It is 11:31. Sean Sitman here with you. I'll be with you until 6 a.m. when Perry Olson comes in along with, I believe, Joe Goldaddy to take over, but we are continuing our coverage throughout the evening hours. A lot of questions that are coming in regarding the evacuations, where people can go to find help if they haven't got somebody to help them evacuate their own home, or other flood questions, or to register your cell phone number for that reverse emergency call system. That number is on your screen. It's 858-9366. Again, that is 858-9366, and there are actually volunteers who are at the flood information center that are taking those calls, and if they don't have the question for you immediately, certainly please have patience, because a lot of people are actually just going to volunteer there, so they may take a few minutes to get that answer for you, but they will be certain to get the answers that you're looking for. I want to pass this along. We were talking about this before we took a break. The NDSU extension hours for dropping off those pets again are from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. and that is going to be on Tuesday and Wednesday. Now we'll reevaluate, I'm sure, on when those pets can be dropped off, but right now it's 8 o'clock in the morning till 8 o'clock at night, and that's going to be Tuesday starting tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. and then again on Wednesday. Tom, how are we doing on the river level numbers?
It's all set to go, and I do want to point out, you know, we talked about this earlier a bit, Sean. We are trying to set up a HD webcam. Joe Goldaddy is doing that right now, I believe. I talked to him about a half hour ago, and Brady Martz, whether we end up using their spot or not, and I think we might, they have to move all their stuff too up to the top because they're right at the river there. So, you know, their IT guy Dave called and said that he can, you know, get us power, he can get us internet site. They are helping us in the midst of all what they're doing, so we can help document this, and people can. And what we're hoping is we can watch this as it happens.
You know, it's my own morbid curiosity, my own morbid fascination that I hate to say it. I wish there was a way where I would be able to set up my own camera at my house to watch it flood, because for whatever reason, I want to see it when it happens. Now, unfortunately, I'm in an area where the power is going to be cut. The trees are infinitely too tall to be able to see that happen, unless maybe from the air. But it's I don't even know how to describe it, to be honest, to have that feeling when you're evacuating your own home, to sit there and going, okay, well, there's my window, looking at, from what I can tell, the water's going to be that high on my wall when it floods.
I mean, I don't have to, I can only imagine that because I'm fortunate enough to live on the hill. So I'm not going through that, but you know, I'm having trouble just wrapping my brain around this. My mind isn't really letting me. I mean, I know what it's going to do. I know what you tell me, and Jim says, okay, add 7-8 feet. You say add 7-8 feet to what we saw like at Ramstad, and my mind just doesn't want to process that.
There's a lot of low-lying areas in the river, Tom, and the best way I could probably envision this, that there are some of those houses in those low-lying areas, and I even hate to say it, but if the river, as they say, is going to hit 1564.4, and that's over 16,000 CFS, there are some houses that probably you might see the rooftop. And
you know, we might even have a new number there for those who are going to be staying up, and we're streaming this all night long. We're streaming this indefinitely right now. I think it's 1 o'clock in the morning. There will be another set of numbers coming out from the Weather Service. Not necessarily a new forecast, but the graph only goes out a certain amount of hours, and we get into another time period, I believe, at 1 o'clock.
Good, bad, or otherwise. I mean, that's what it's coming in. So far, the numbers have been going up. This number was 1553 earlier today, and they upgraded that because of the increased flows from Rafferty as the water was going over the dam. And I think that's one thing that we have to point out, too, as well. We'll see if we can find some of that video, maybe of the Rafferty Dam, too. But Canada is releasing these amounts of water simply because they have to. It's not that they're just opening up the dams because the
dam integrity.
Dam integrity. Yeah. There we go. It's the water is going over the dam, and they have to get those levels down, especially on the Rafferty. And then there's a little bit that is going to be coming out, and I'll get those exact numbers here in a little bit. But why don't we take this opportunity to go through river levels here a little bit?
There?
We'll go ahead and Mike, if we can bring up those river levels starting at Sherwood, where it's currently sitting at 22.91 inches. That forecast is expected a week from today on Monday at 26.6. Working our way down the Mouse at Foxhome. This is the one we were talking about that we have to keep our eye on. The Des Lacs River system at 10:49, that is increasing. And as Tom talked about, there were some rain totals up there that could have an impact on that level. And that's kind of the wild card for Burlington. We'll touch on that more here in just a moment. That highest ever reading was actually at 21.23, April of 1979. The lake level at Darling, that is a little bit deceiving. They are trying to create some capacity within Lake Darling to prepare for some of that water as it cascades out of Canada and is set to slam into the Darling Dam in a couple of days, trying to create capacity. So that's why they have ramped up those releases. Currently releasing at 9,000 CFS, dropping a little bit at 1599.44. Their hope is to get 4 feet of storage within that dam by the time the water comes out of Canada, and those certainly will be increased here over the next several days from the Darling Dam. That's Friday starting at 10,000. Saturday it goes to 12,000, and throughout Saturday then it goes to 14,500. Sunday then to 15,000, and Monday at 16.6. And I have to mention here that those are the readings that are going to be coming at the Broadway Bridge in Minot. I'm getting a little ahead of myself here. Sorry about that. In Burlington right now, 23.44. The highest was on June 2nd. Not much farther away from that, about a foot east of Foxhome, back in the Mouse River. 17.6, and that forecast is set for the 26th, so next Sunday at 20.1 feet. Farther down in the Mouse here at the Boy Scout Bridge, just northwest of Minot, 21.17 feet. Again, that crest is expected on Monday. Now, these are the latest projections. That could change again. Like Tom was saying, we're getting some new numbers possibly at that 1 o'clock a.m. hour. But right now, that is set for next Monday at 23.7. And then the Mouse River at the Broadway Bridge, 1553.61, heading for that all-time high crest, breaking the old record set back in 1881 in January of 1881 at 15. That was 1558. We are well past that, heading towards 1564.4. At Logan, the current reading is sitting at 37.2. Now, that hasn't changed a whole lot, setting for next Monday at 38.4. That's their projected crest. In Sawyer, we had another one of our Facebook followers asking what the latest reading is. It's at 24.34 inches. That crest is expected next Monday as well at 27.1. These are subject to change as the National Weather Service continues to figure in some of the rainfall and releases from up in Canada as well. Velva is sitting very good with their dike system right now at 1508.65. Their forecast is at 1511.3 for June 27th. Again, their dike system is built to that 1515 mark. As we were hearing from the mayor of Velva earlier, they have had a little bit of seepage. They are monitoring those. But again, that 1511.3 mark is still below their dike system capacity that is built up to that 1515 mark. As we head towards Towner, that current reading is dropping a little bit at 56.85. Another new projected crest for Towner for next Monday at 56.9, continuing to break records on that Towner reading. Bantry dropping a little bit as some of our lower flows over the last few days are finally reaching up towards that Bantry area at 1477. That crest, that river is going to go up in a couple of more inches at 14.9. One of the gentlemen I talked with today, I talked with a lot of people. You're going to have to forgive me. I was chatting quite a bit with a lot of my neighbors and people that were going down our street today, asking why Towner and Bantry and some of the people in the outer lying areas of the Mouse River system only go up a couple of inches when we are talking feet in Minot, simply because the water is channeled so heavily through Minot, and once it gets out past the city's dike systems, it spreads out and covers such a wide area of the valley. And one of the things, Tom, I think that we haven't mentioned yet at this point is that there are a lot of people to the northwest of Velva, basically between there and Towner, that have been displaced since early April when that initial flood hit that area, and will continue to be displaced for the duration, and we are talking possibly July or later. These are folks that live down in the valley that haven't been in their homes since early April.
And it could last longer. You want a bit of I'm not considering this really good news here. The National Weather Service just today released their 3-month outlook. And, you know, normally I don't buy into those a whole lot because they change so much. But I will tell you that starting in the one they did for March, April, May was absolutely right on. April, May, June was right on. June, July, August was right on. And I think now they have, is it July, August, September? Anyway, the latest one now has a 40% chance of cooler than normal and a 40% chance of higher than normal precipitation. Now, the reason I point that out is 2 weeks ago, we were at like equal chances for normal precipitation. So they've gone from an outlook where they were thinking maybe it was going to be normal precipitation for the rest of the summer, now to a 40% chance of higher than normal precipitation for the summer months. And that's a pretty dramatic change. And they've been pretty right this year. I don't always believe them, but they've been pretty right this year.
And right now has put us in a very bad situation. You know, when we were talking about those flows from Canada at that 4 p.m. press conference, Mayor Kurt Zimmelman talked about the 23,000, actually 25,000 coming out of, that's going to be coming past Sherwood, but 23,000 is being released from the dams up in Canada. Rafferty is releasing roughly 17,000 CFS alone, and like we talked about, that's because of the integrity concerns at Rafferty. Not that it's in danger, but you don't want to put too much stress on a dam having water flowing over unimpeded over the spillway system. So they are ramping up and already releasing 17,000 CFS from Rafferty. Now, Alameda currently at the last time we heard at 1,800, and then the Boundary Reservoir is releasing 5,000, and that is right over by Estevan, Saskatchewan, I believe.
Now, one of the questions I saw on Facebook, a gentleman was wondering why they're letting water out of Darling now before the water from Saskatchewan gets here, and that is to provide space, because you don't want Lake Darling to have a catastrophic failure. Am I correct in that?
Well,
assumption?
anytime you put a dam at full capacity, it does put pressure on that levee system, that diking system that is the dam itself, basically. And
so they
absolutely
have to do this, because I mean,
the goal is never to get a dam full.
Right.
And that was actually the concern with the Garrison Dam and why they upped their flows to 150,000 CFS, putting Bismarck and a lot of folks on that Missouri River system in such peril, so to speak, just because if Lake Sakakawea became full, it really does put them in a precarious situation of worrying about the integrity of the dam. It puts undue stress on that system that if it were to fail, would not be good.
Now, another person had a good posting here on Facebook. How do you find out, and the question was, how do you find out the elevation of your house? And I hadn't thought about this. Google Earth, or Google Maps, was it? Google Earth or Google Maps. And you could do this yourself, but you can move the cursor over where you live and it'll tell you the elevation. So if you're trying to figure out what the elevation is at your house, it's either Google Earth or Google Maps.
There's another one, earthtools.org,
okay,
too.
So
that's one
there are tools, there are ways to finding out on the internet.
The only thing that I have to caution with some of that is there are times, depending on the areas that you live in too, that I have seen that there is a little disclaimer on some of them. I haven't been to all the sites, but there is a disclaimer that says plus or minus 10 feet on some of those readings. So that plus or minus 10 feet may be that a large margin of error.
That's a big margin of error.
So take caution and really read in if you go to some of those sites looking for the exact elevation on your house. There are also applications on cell phones that will also give you an estimated elevation of your house, and I have found the one on mine as well and was trying to find it, but and then I took it next to the river, and there was a disparity between what the river elevation, what it said.
Like my wife has a GPS for her bicycle, and it has the elevation everywhere. Yep. You know, so there's a lot of different ways of finding out.
But make sure you have one that's giving you an exact reading, not an estimated reading. Correct. Because that plus or minus 10 feet is all the difference in the world when we're talking about what we're expecting with this 1564.4. Mike, let's go ahead and roll that video. We've located within our vast archives here a video that we've acquired over the last couple of days, that high water mark from the 1969 flood that was over on 4th Avenue and 7th Street Northwest over in my neighborhood as I was filming. the other day. People were once again concerned over the high river levels, and walking down the street, there was right on a power pole the high water mark at 1555.4, that crest that came. That's where it was on that power pole. And
so now you're telling me that the numbers that we have, it's going to be 8 feet higher than that?
That is what the Army Corps of Engineers is telling us, that it is actually going to be 8 feet higher, 8 to 9 feet higher.
That's going to be up
than
to
that
people's
power
roofs.
pole. Some people, absolutely. And now the thing that you do have to keep in mind, though, that they also made the statement that we are in uncharted water when it comes to when this water breaches the levee system.
Where's it going to run to?
Where's it going to run to?
It might go wider.
And is it going to actually reach that 9 foot above that 1969 water mark? I mean,
we just don't know.
There's so many unknowns right now, but the one known that they have is that Minot is going to overflow. That is why the mandatory evacuations are coming Wednesday at 10 p.m. We have to be out of our houses. They are projecting an early Friday, somewhere in that mid-morning hours, that's when Minot could see the elevated water flows on the river to overtake the dike system. And I'm not a hydrologist. I've never pretended to be one. I'm not an engineer, never pretend to be one either. But a lot of people I've talked with within those fields have said that once a river that is flowing at good speeds like the Mouse is right now, once it breaches, once it goes over, it actually starts to erode that temporary dike system. So at the end of my avenue, 4th Avenue, there is a substantial temporary levee system there that is, I would say, minimum 6 feet tall. Once it breaches there, the water will actually start to erode that levee system, and that presents a concern. And the main reason is that the water has to go down even farther then for the water to get back into the channel when that flood water finally goes down.
Okay, you lost me in that last part.
So the water starts to erode.
I got that. So
we lose the temporary levee system, some of them that have been built up.
Right.
So now that the water river level actually has to go to that 1555, 1556 mark for the water not to be flooding some areas.
Oh, to get back in.
To get back into the original channel.
Okay.
Now, let's hope that doesn't happen. But like we have always said, hope for the best, plan for the worst.
And you know, there are some things that, this being uncharted territory, and I'm not a hydrologist either, but I had to study it. And when the water leaves the banks, which we're told it will, it's going to go places that nobody's ever thought of before. And that's going to help somewhat with maybe the height, possibly. It's certainly not going to be good news for the people that weren't expecting that water. They're going to get it. But there's just so many variables. So are we sure that it's going to be, you know, 50, is it, what are the numbers again? What's the
1550? Are you talking about the peak elevation?
Yeah.
1564.4 is the projected crest.
Do we think it's going to end up there exactly? Probably not, because there's just too many variations, and this has never happened before. So there are no graphs, there are no computer models, there's nothing to deal with this right now.
And the Corps, the National Weather Service, everyone is crunching the numbers, and we have yet another press conference set for noon tomorrow, I believe. And of course, we will be airing that live here on KX News. Jim Olson will be back. Perry Olson, I believe, is going to be down at City Hall for that. And my very best guess is that we're going to be dealing with new numbers again. That 1564.4 is not our final number. Now, high or low, I don't know which.
Well, you know, also by tomorrow, they'll have time to take into account what happened today with the rain. And we did have widespread, you know, half-inch to inch, inch and a half, with some areas getting more than that. And in the past couple of days, certainly like Montreal County, but that doesn't flow into the river. That's, you know, bad for the people in Plaza, and I don't want to downplay that at all. But the rain that fell today, you know, some of that was figured into the forecasting for the rivers, but they'll have a chance to crunch these numbers overnight in the morning. And was this within everything we've thought? And if it was, maybe the numbers don't change a whole lot. Were there spots that got a whole lot of rain? Now, up north of Regina, there was a lot of rain up there. I mean, a tremendous amount of rain. Closer to the North Dakota border, around Oxbow and Estevan, it wasn't that heavy. But you get farther north, then it certainly was. So, you know, they're going to have those numbers as crunched tomorrow, and that'll all go into any new projection they may have.
Absolutely. You know, again, we are talking about that 1564.4 mark here in Minot, and those are going to be ramped up as we talked about the release coming from Lake Darling. That is going to be 10,000 Friday, 12 to 14,000, ramping up on Saturday, up to 15,000 on Sunday, and then Monday we're going to be looking at that over 16,600 CFS. And like you said, there's so many unknowns with this. The Corps talked about that the river was actually digging out the channel a little deeper as it was flowing here in recent weeks, and that certainly could have an impact on this, but the time will tell, certainly.
Now, I don't know if the number has changed, but the number that I have for the Lake Darling Dam on Monday that Jim Olson had earlier tonight, because I think you were out evacuating.
I was I was emptying my house.
So you weren't here for that, but the number that Jim had me use was 18,700 on Monday out of Lake Darling, not
18,000. Okay, yeah, you're right, 18,000. That was the projection. I'm actually looking at some of his older notes over here.
Yeah.
He's got, I don't know if you've ever had a chance, Jim has kept a plethora of notes as he was continuing on today with his full-time coverage. But one issue that a lot of people have been concerned about today, when we initially found out at 8 o'clock in the morning that the city of Minot was planning on building up our dike system. We were going to go around the clock building levees, and by that 1 o'clock conference call, with the amount of water that is coming out, the writing was on the wall. We weren't going to be able to do it. By that time, too, it was pouring rain in Minot. And they have moved back to basically their secondary protection plan, which is not the secondary dikes, but rather protecting the infrastructure of Minot. You're going to see around the schools, the water treatment plants, the lift stations, and even the State Fair Center, I believe that they are working on. Here's a look at all of those 9 evacuation zones. And again, tomorrow we could see a little bit of a revision on some of these as they look at the inundation maps, those areas as the water comes up higher than it ever has before. Some streets, a couple of avenues may possibly be added to this depending on what the numbers that the Corps crunches. And we were talking about evacuation sections within those zones before. No, this is all 9 of them. Wednesday night at 10 p.m., everyone has to be out. And according to the police chief Ballantyne, that the National Guard is going to be assisting with security within these evacuation zones, and that the Minot Police Department will stay vigilant. Now, that is going to change once the Mouse River tops those levee systems. Airboats will also be in the area staged, and I have been told that the Black Hawk helicopters will also be in town, as we have seen flying around the area already, making sure that we try to keep everyone safe, and that is why we are told that the evacuations are happening Wednesday night at 10 p.m. so we get a full day to go through basically a door-to-door check to make sure everyone is out of Minot when that levee breach is expected sometime early on Friday. Looking at some of the different situations, Mike, we've got a couple more graphics when we talk about preparing evacuation grab-and-go boxes. Most of us are basically emptying out our houses within the valley systems, but we have a lot to take into consideration when we talk about taking everything we can with us. I know some people are leaving things behind simply because they don't have places to put everything. If you have to make decisions on what to take and what to go, make sure that obviously monetary issues are taken care of, cash, your checkbook, things like that. We are going to be evacuated for a vast period of time. It's a lot more than a couple of days. It's going to be weeks, if not longer, with these elevated flows. You want to make sure that you have your emergency phone numbers, the doctors, financial advisors, family practitioners, things like that, where we can make sure that we've got all of those numbers available. And then we also know we're going to be out of our homes for a while, so we have those copies of the children's immunization records, health and dental insurance cards if we have to go to the doctor in that meantime. You know, things that you may need, copies of your auto and flood insurance if you have flood insurance, renters or homeowners insurance policies, those important files that a lot of us hopefully you know, want to keep safe and on file, but those, if your house is going to flood, should come with you, because if they are destroyed, that becomes a big problem. in getting some of those copies back. We also have copies of deeds, titles, wills, trust, home inventory. Make sure that you know what's in your house. A lot of us have wills, things like that, certificates, anything that you might want to take with you. And keep in mind with 1564.4, a lot of our homes will have significant water on the main floor. And if that water stays there long enough, I mean, the house itself is going to become, almost a little bit, get that musty sense inside, as that water could sit there for several days, if not weeks. So make sure that you take what you want with you out of that home. Sterling Kennels is also opened up for animals. They'll be open until midnight. Now, it's only a couple of minutes till midnight right now, but they'll be open till midnight every day until June 26th. So until next Sunday, Sterling Kennels says that they will be opening up theirs, and you can get a hold of them at 852-60. Don't call tonight, though. They're going to be leaving here in just a moment, but 852-6379. I'm going to say that one more time. Grab a pen, a piece of paper, or grab your cell phone. Go to your notebook thing here. I'm procrastinating, so you can do this. If you have a pet that you want to take care of, a dog, or I'm not sure if Sterling Kennels takes cats, but for sure I know dogs. It's 852-6379.
And go ahead. Eric?
I just got some video for you.
Okay, Eric Manlove has been out shooting some video for us. We'll take a look at that in just a moment.
Also, we have some news. We've had people ask us about recording this. Catherine Ross lives very close to the river, and right now we have a webcam set up there. And Joe is going to, it's already streaming into the station, so that's one camera, and then tomorrow we're going to set up another one at Brady Mart's. So we're going to have not one but two web cameras right near the Broadway Bridge, basically. I mean, with a stone's throw away from the Broadway Bridge. So we'll have two cameras to stream video. So Joe's in the control room right now. You'll be able to go to, I believe is it the KX website, Joe? Well, he's back. But we will have two cameras. One of them is in operation tonight, but it's dark, and there's a train blocking it right now. Tomorrow, and then we'll have the one at Brady Mart's.
Well,
so we got two cameras.
Knowing Mr. Technological Guru Goldaddy here, that it'll be on our website and linked to our Facebook page.
Well, it already is on the website. I already saw it once.
Okay, so it's just a matter of getting linked. Mike, if you want to go ahead, we've got some video now that was just taken here a little bit ago over by the North Dakota State Fair Center. There it is. They've started making dikes along the north end of the State Fair Center, the All Seasons Arena, in an attempt to protect the State Fair Center from, well, let's be honest, the impending mouse. Loaders, they're placing dirt and clay, we should have to say clay because it's not just dirt, it's clay, as quickly as the trucks are hauling it in, and those are coming just about every 30 to 60 seconds. It's the loaders, about 5 to 10 minutes to clear that dirt from the location. Then about 30 seconds after that, he's complete. Another truck with a load of dirt comes in. And like we were talking about, Tom, they're working in less than ideal conditions for dike building. Little sprinkles in the area again as they're trying to mesh this stuff up and really get it packed in there, knowing the amount of water is coming.
We had a good question here, but let me go back to the site and find it. And it's more of a thing that I don't think you have an answer for, but I'm going to throw it out as soon as I get back to it. And let me get back to our website. And this is a gentleman that lives northwest of town, and he was taught. And I'm going to talk you through it, and you answer the best you can.
I'll see what I can come up with.
See what you can come up. And I'm just going to try to read this and kind of paraphrase it. Okay. Let me see where. Now we have a lot of stuff on here. Okay. Let me get more just to make sure I can get the whole thing here. Okay, we're reporting that the already flooded valley is going to rise about 2.5 feet to the new crest. Now we're talking about the Boy Scout Bridge. Mm-hmm. Okay, and I just checked the hydrograph, and it's supposed to go up about 2.5. During the crest. That's not a lot. I mean, the next gauge is 11 feet. Oh boy, I got to write a comment box that just popped up there. Wish I could get rid of that. The next gauge is actually Broadway, the Broadway Bridge.
The Broadway Bridge, correct.
In Minot. So we're talking about going it up 7-8 feet. Okay. How can the question is?
How can it go up 2 feet there and 11 feet over there?
Yeah. If it's going to go up 2 to 3 feet at Broadway at 4 miles northwest, Boy Scout Bridge, how can it go up 11 feet
I think the easiest way I can describe this, and we've asked this question to the Corps before, when you talk about the reading levels being 2 feet out here and 11 feet in town, is simply look at the area where the water spreads out to once it's outside of the dike system. For instance, at the Boy Scout Bridge just northwest of Minot, where they're talking about that 2.5 feet, because it spreads out so much, that is the difference within those 2 feet. Now, once it goes into Minot, into that dike system, all of that water that is spread out in the valley is now funneled. And as it comes back in there into the dike system, then it increases in height.
Okay, because it's funneled, but out of the Boy Scout Bridge, it's spreading out. It's
spread way out. I've been up in the air several times. It looks like a vast lake out in the valley. And all that water through Minot is going through a river channel comparative that is tiny to the entire valley. That's the disparity between 2 feet and 11 feet.
Good answer.
Yeah. Well, really quickly, too, I just want to show you, and we have it pulled up. On our front page at kxnet.com, we have a live link to watch now the Broadway Bridge Skycam in the Minot area, and this is what it looks like. You're looking at a live shot, and you know, you may have heard him talk about it earlier. Sean, this is coming out of our reporter Catherine Ross's apartment. So we kind of wired this up. We have another camera coming tomorrow as well. So we're going to have 2 different angles. Now, at night you can't see much. You're looking right at the river, and if there is trains going by, the train could be in the way here or there. But the thing is that you can see, actually, even at night, the lights reflecting off the top of the water. It's hard to see it right now. But if you go to kxnet.com, and it's right on our homepage, there's 2 links kind of around the weather announcements section. One of them says watch KX News streaming live, which is this right here, and then watch the live KX river camera in Minot. So we're going to add another camera to that tomorrow, Sean. And again, you'll be able to now watch, and where this is pointing right now is pretty much where the gauge is at.
Broadway Bridge. It's just basically to the east and a little bit, I want to say, to the south as the river wraps right there. Yes,
and so you're basically going to be seeing the intersection, the lights during the daytime of 4th Avenue and Broadway. So it's right there. You can see the river, you can see the dikes and everything. So keep an eye on our website, our Facebook pages, and again, another camera to come tomorrow. So kind of good to note here as we head into what could be just, again, a devastating flood here in the next several days.
And this scene is going to change tremendously by the end of the week.
Yep, so you can, this is a link that you can share with your family and friends here, that now you can watch the river live. And again, we'll be adding one more high definition camera coming tomorrow. So just wanted to let you know about that.
And by the way, Joe, you're supposed to relieve me in 6 hours.
Yeah, go get some sleep now. So you guys have a good night.
And we'll wake up if we have any more computer stuff.
And do me a favor when you come, coffee and donuts. Yeah, that's what I'm asking. Okay. All right. Sounds good. Well, we've been talking here for about another half hour here, so we're going to take a short break, but before I'm going to give you a little bit of idea what we're coming back to. The man before me here, Jim Olson, that was on the air for the better part of most of today from about 10 o'clock on. He left here, and you would assume he went home to get some sleep. Well, he didn't. He's hard at work already at home.
He's got 3 houses to move.
He's got 3 houses to move. We're going to come right back, and we're going to take a look at what he's up to in just a moment.
From KX News in high definition, this is a special report, Flood Fight 2011.
And welcome back to our round-the-clock coverage of Flood Fight 2011. Sean Sitma in with you for the duration of the evening and now into the morning. It is Tuesday, 12:07, and we will continue broadcasting around the clock now until until the water comes, projected for Friday in Minot. Expecting that crest for the final numbers that have come across from the National Weather Service at 1564.4. That is expected on Monday. Now, the crest that we're looking for actually on that early Friday, that seems to be the date and the time that is most likely going to be the issue for the city of Minot, is going to be sometime in the mid-morning hours of Friday, possibly that 7 o'clock hour, where we could see some of the first areas in the Teresita Vallejo area just west of Minot, where it could possibly top those levee systems. Now, many of us throughout the day, as the news came at that 12 o'clock hour during the press conference with Minot Mayor Kurt Zimbelman, Army Corps of Engineer officials, and Minot Public Works Director Alan Walter, all the officials came with the news that the city of Minot was going to be in for a tremendous amount of water and that the evacuations were going into place. At 4 o'clock, we found out then that those evacuations were set for Wednesday night at 10 p.m., that all evacuation zones in Minot 1 through 9 are going to be called out of their homes and have to be out by Wednesday at 10 p.m. As we found out, too, that some of these areas might be expanded as they start to figure into those inundation maps as a projected crest of this nature. 1564.4 has never been recorded before. It is feet above the old record set back in 1881, far beyond those levels. So a lot of the hydrologists are still wholly unsure exactly where this water is going to go, and they're crunching those numbers. I expect to get an answer sometime, I would say tomorrow during that 1 o'clock press conference. We can take a look at some of the other areas outside of Minot, Ward County, that are also under mandatory evacuations. That is over in the east side estates area, Apple Grove, the areas outside Ward County to the east within that River Valley bottom that are under the mandatory evacuations. Excuse me. The city of Burlington is also taking a look at that same issue. We can see more areas. I believe that's out in that east side estates area too. But, excuse me, Mike? This is Burlington. Burlington, thank you. Okay. As we take a look at Burlington now, this is the mandatory evacuation area in red. Now, that area to the just bottom left of your screen that's still green, that is under the recommended area that is basically on the northwest side, or northeast side, I'm sorry, northeast side of the highway and railroad tracks. Still in the green there, that is the recommended evacuation, the area in red in Burlington, mandatory evacuation. That is Wednesday at 6 p.m. Minot Wednesday 10, Burlington Wednesday 6 p.m. Now, the flood fight in Burlington is continuing. They are continuing right now to make sandbags at this hour. I'm going to see if I can get our photographer for the night, Eric Manlove, to maybe head out to Burlington to see how many people are out there filling sandbags at this hour. They told us at the press conference at, I even have to think here, 2 o'clock and then again at 8 o'clock tonight that they are going to fight. They're going to raise those levees as much as they can in Burlington to see if they can hold back the Mouse River, and then the concern with the Des Lacs as it comes in as well. But they're making sandbags and attempting to raise that levee system through Burlington in an attempt to save the city there. However, regardless, those mandatory evacuations are in place Wednesday at 6. If you want to find this map, it is at www.burlingtonflood.com. That will show you the exact areas you can zoom in, find your house in the mandatory evacuations. Now, the reason they are going Wednesday at 6 p.m. is that the fire department within Burlington is going door to door after that 6 o'clock hour and is going to go to the doors. As the fire chief from Burlington had said, they are going to put caution tape across those doors, exit out as an indication that that house is clear. They are also warning people not to go back into, they're asking people not to go back into the evacuation areas after they have evacuated. And once you have left, they are also asking residents in Burlington to contact the Emergency Operations Center, which is going to be at the fire hall, to let officials know that you're out of your house. And once you're out, don't go back in. After that 6 p.m. hour, the fire department will be going house to house, checking out the residences to make sure that everyone is out. If you have any questions on shutting off your gas, also call the flood hotline. We have that at 858-9366, whether that's in Burlington or Minot. And if you're in Burlington and have an issue of shutting off your gas, you can try to get a hold of MDU. Or if you really can't find any other means of getting it shut off, the fire department said they will assist you with that. You can call the local fire department in Burlington or this flood hotline at 858-9366. Now, one other area to talk about here is once the evacuation zones are clear, they are also going to be, or I should say before they're clear, we're also implementing in the city of Minot the reverse emergency alert calls, or the reverse 911 system, I guess as it's generically called, that if we should have an issue with the levees or if one of them starts to breach, that they will blare the sirens with a message to follow. That is the immediate notice to evacuate. The same goes for Burlington. except for in Burlington, they are going to be sandbagging up until they are forced off the levees, and at that time, the emergency sirens will blare in the town. That is the clear indication. If you are there sandbagging, or if you're in the evacuation zones, get out now. As we got the notice today, many of us were evacuating. Starting at 7 o'clock myself in northwest Minot, clearing out my place. But Jim Olson, who was here until roughly 10 o'clock this evening, was on from 10 till 10 today and has got a lot more work ahead of him. Mike, let's go ahead and take a look at the video. Once Jim Olson left here, it didn't take him long. Well, to get back to work, he headed home, and upon his arrival, he found a big semi-trailer with a lot of people helping out, loading out his place. And as he joked, he got back to his house. Of course, Jim, being the joker that he is, walks up and goes, "Who are you people? What are you doing with my stuff?" But no, it's good to see that a lot of people are helping families be able to get their stuff out of their homes. Now, the Olsons have 3 different homes, with Jim's house and Perry's house, and then Jim's daughter, Carolyn, as well, trying to get every last item out of their homes, and that goes for the garages and the basements, and you know, even some people who have those lower second floors and those lower elevations.
I was just going to point out that if we can go to the radar here. Well, do you want to watch the end of the video, or was that it?
That was about it right there.
This is the latest HD radar, HD precision radar. And if you look up towards Esteban, I think Esteban, does that go into the Rafferty? Is that?
That is, well, looking at the entire area, that would about encompass Rafferty and Alameda with that spread.
Well,
right
that's
there.
A little pocket of very heavy rain right now, and it's just dropped about 4/10 of an inch of rain. And I don't want to freak everybody out every time there's a thunderstorm that pops up, but that's definitely rain falling in a place that the ground is saturated, and it's going to be going into the Souris or Delac or somewhere. It's going to be flowing this way in the next couple of days, because that's a pocket of very heavy rain right there.
We've talked about this once before, but during the press conference, Mayor Jerome Grunberg talked about Burlington's individual battle with 2 rivers, essentially, the Mouse River
and the Delac, which is a big
yep,
wild card.
That's the number 2, yeah, the Mouse River that comes in basically from the northwest, and the Delac River that essentially comes in on that even farther northeast side. That the Delac, like you said, is that wild card. If we get a substantial amount of rain, widespread rain, and that's the issue with the Delac. It comes in so much faster in its flows because of the elevation change as it flows towards the Mouse, that would be the backbreaker if we did get enough rainfall to really kick the Delac into high gear as well, and that could be the straw that breaks the camel's back for Burlington if it isn't the Mouse before then. So. Right.
And so, there's just so many places for this water to go. But one thing that we know pretty definitively is that the ground is saturated, and the rain that's falling isn't soaking in anywhere.
Anywhere. It doesn't matter where you're at in North Dakota, and even as far away as southwestern North Dakota, in my home country, we're known as an arid climate. It's about as desert-like as you can get with still prairie lands, but they're saturated. Everywhere right now is saturated, and the water falls. Like up at Rafferty and Alameda, it's going in their drainage systems. It's going right there. As a matter of fact, let's go ahead and roll that video from the Rafferty Dam that was taken. Jim Olson headed up to the Rafferty on Sunday, and this was the video. This is the water that's coming out towards us, and they're ramping that up for a total flow out of Canada at 18,000. Is that right, Tom?
Well, that was Lake Darling.
I'm sorry, that was Lake Darling. No, this is actually a total of 23,000 CFS coming out of Canada. But just look at the immensity of the water that is coming out even at this point on Sunday at the Rafferty Dam just north of the border here.
And we are starting, it seems to be leveling off, so we're starting to see a bit of a gain, hopefully today, on the reservoir levels. Our plan is to continue to release in the near term here at roughly the same rate, so that we do gain some storage on the reservoir. We continue to monitor the reservoir level and the inflows and adjust outflows accordingly. It seems like every week to 10 days we get another rainfall event that basically covers the upper basin in the Souris, and it's forecasted that we can get some more rain even today and tomorrow.
All right, and there it is. That's what's heading towards Minot, coming out of Canada right now at 23,000 CFS, heading for the U.S., set to slam into Lake Darling. And once again, Lake Darling right now opening up their flows at 9,000 CFS and is going to be ramping up to 18,000 by the time this is all said and done. But right now they're trying to create a little bit of storage in anticipation, knowing that all of this water coming out of Canada, that 23,000 CFS is coming, and their ideal goal was to get about 4 feet of storage, 4 acre-feet of storage capacity up at that Lake Darling location. And right now, the latest reading I believe that we had from Lake Darling was at 1599, and I'm going to have to.
I have it right here, 1599.44.
1599.44, and they were hoping to get down to that 1597 mark before a lot of this water started flowing in from Canada. There it is, decreasing a little bit, so they are creating a little bit of storage capacity. In essence, too, that they haven't ramped it up so much. They're trying to buy Minot a little bit of time, and not in so much a sense to raise the levee system, but rather to be able to get all of the residents out of the river valley. They've given us until Wednesday night for the mandatory evacuation, but instead of just a few hours and ramping that up and trying to create a lot of capacity, they're keeping that at 9,000 for today and then ramping that up to 10,000 and so on down the line. That really is just a matter of buying time for those of us within the valley system there. And if you've got if you ever have a chance, if you want to find where a lot of these flood forecasts and things like that they're on the National Weather Service site at Bismarck. The easiest way to find this, I'll tell you, if you go to Google or to a search engine, you can type in NWS Bismarck. What that stands for is the National Weather Service at Bismarck. Once you get to that home page, you can click on it is rivers and lakes, and that will take you to another page that is all of the different rivers and dams within North Dakota. What you want to do is click on the little icon within that on that page, like Lake Darling, for instance, and you will see the river readings. And right now, that river reading at Lake Darling is on a downward slope, 1599.44. If you click, however, on the number itself, it will take you down the line. And the difference, though, with the Lake Darling, though, it doesn't give you that projected forecast as far as releases. That's coming from the Corps of Engineers. Well, the Corps of Engineers is the one who issues it, but then Tom Pabian from the U.S. Fish and Wildlife, they are the ones who actually raise the gates and things like that to allow for that flow. If you click on, say, for instance, the one you see on your screen, the Broadway Bridge at Minot, you will see the huge arc in the river level that is going to start on Friday. Now, that only takes you out to June 26. If you click on that little green dot up in the right-hand corner that says 1562.7, and then it will show you a whole bunch of numbers. What you want to look for then is the final day, which it goes out to the 27th of June, which is next Monday. And right now that is saying 1564.4 or 16,000.
And we might have a new number at roughly 1 o'clock.
1 o'clock. So about another 37 and a half minutes we're looking at that. So that could be a few minutes late, as we have seen in the past.
Todd Mathestad on Facebook did the Google Earth thing, trying to figure out elevation, and he knows his elevation, and he found out that using Google Earth, it is 6 feet higher than actual. So at least the calculations he did, you need to subtract 6 feet. So that's a big margin of error.
And that's what I was saying before. You really have to take a good long look at the site. Google Earth is great for looking at street views and things like that, but even the addresses are a little bit off, so you can't wholly rely on that. Unless you have a really good GPS system where it shows you exact elevations and not estimates. A lot of people were trying to find it on their phones to find that GPS reading. Well, those altimeters, as they call them, the one app on my phone, well, it's a plus or minus 10. That's a big disparity.
But there are GPSs that, bicycle GPSs, some car GPSs are pretty accurate on that.
Mike, which graphic do we have up on the screen here? I realize this is an inundation map. I'm not sure. East of Broadway at what elevation? 1662. 1562, yes, I don't want to get those numbers wrong. 1562, this is the inundation map, so it's showing the areas that will be underwater at 1562. Now, the difference is that the projection is for almost 2.5 feet higher than that. At 1562, you can see that the entire river valley, and you would have to be able to zoom down on this to see your exact house, but you can see where the water is going once it goes out of the riverbank. And like Mr. Mayor, the mayor had said at the press conference, sadly, we're going to become a lake. We can see that that's Oak Park on the left side of your screen right there, Nubbin Park on the kind of the upper north part of your screen. 4th Avenue runs up in there. Broadway's on the right there on the yellow. And you can see that the entire river valley is going to become a lake at 1562, and then add 2.4 feet to that as well. And I think you said it best, Tom, earlier. It's something that's hard to imagine.
Yeah, and you know, looking at this map, I mean, that's really not the final product, because this isn't going up to the projected. This is just what we have available to show. We should get another one in the next day or so, I would think.
And tomorrow, I think we're going to find out a lot more about those evacuation zones, if they have to be added to, whether it's 1 through 9, which areas may be added to, and they're not going to subtract, but they are working on a couple of dike systems, secondary dikes to protect some of the infrastructure. One of those will be Broadway, and I'm not wholly sure yet at this moment whether or not that is going to mean that some houses are saved. That might be behind or on the right side of the levee.
Yeah.
But for the most part, the entire valley in Minot is set for a tremendous amount of water.
Now, one thing that I saw this on Facebook as well, and that's just such a great place, because you know, so many people are offering services, whether it be moving, they have a truck, they need help, they can babysit. I mean, Facebook is just a tremendous place to go. But you know, a question that when I first saw it, I was like, of course, but you know what? Not everybody, you know, really understands that. There's going to be a lot of businesses that have to shut down. I mean, they don't have any option to stay open.
Yep.
And so that's going to interrupt commerce. You know, like the marketplace over on Arrowhead, that's got to close.
And for a minute, just think about all the businesses that are down there that stretch all the way from the west side of town to the east. We were talking about Marketplace Foods. We were talking about Arrowhead Shopping Center. All of the businesses in Arrowhead Shopping Center. We also have Granite Springs. We have Dairy Queen. Then you have the Oak Park Theater. From there, you can move on down to a couple of the bars that are along the river. It's almost just unfathomable to start thinking about it. You've got the zoo. The zoo is going to take a tremendous hit.
And all the employees of this business, now say these businesses have to stay shut till July sometime.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, well, obviously this is going to be a case-by-case, you know, situation here, but are employers going to be able to pay? You know, are you, you know, you're already displaced from your house. You don't have a job to go to. You won't have money coming in. And I'm not trying to paint a worst-case scenario here, but these are just questions.
We're painting a realistic picture here, Tom, and that's probably some of the questions that some of us here at KX News are going to have to search out. I know one person on our Facebook page was asking, well, if you are essentially laid off because your business is flooded, are you able to collect unemployment? Things like that. And to me, I mean, we are wading into uncharted territory of disaster. The last time anyone experienced anything like this was in 1969 when the city flooded. There were a lot of businesses that went out of business, and I really do not want to, I don't even want to think about anything like that happening, that the flood could mean the end for a business owner, but that was a reality that some of them faced in 69, and that flood lasted 40 days.
You know, and one of the other, you know, situations from earlier this week, and you know, the days are kind of running together here. You know, FEMA originally declined, or you know, did not approve
individual assistance.
Now, you know, with this going on right now, I gotta think they're going to reevaluate.
That is a number at the bottom of your screen right now. I hope you write down, you memorize, you log it into your cell phone. This is one that is going to be crucial. This is the FEMA hotline that once the flooding occurs. And we, and I say we because there are a lot of us here that work, Jim Olson, Perry Olson, myself, Galen Ness, a photojournalist that live down in the valley, to report all, not just any, but all damages to your personal property from this flood disaster when it happens. That number is 1-877-212-0316. Now, if for some reason you lose that, the other magic number, the magic number that is on the on our Facebook page, you have to scroll down a little ways to find it. It's also at the Ward County Emergency Manager's Facebook page and web page, but that flood hotline is 858-9366. That's kind of the go-to. I just had Misty on Facebook asking or saying that there's a lot of folks out at the Holiday Village that need help moving out. You need to call the flood hotline. And they've been saying they will try to pair up people who are looking for people
they're kind of
looking
a central,
to help.
They're kind of a central location to call for that kind of stuff.
And we realize emotions are high. This is about as stressful time as I've ever had in my life, including when I was planning my own wedding. I shouldn't say I was planning, I was agreeing. But not to joke around here, but this is as stressful as it gets, knowing that you have to leave your home, something you've worked so hard for. And I just ask for people to use patience when dealing with people on this, even this flood hotline. These are people that are volunteering to help try to coordinate these efforts and things like that.
Yeah,
so
these are local people.
Absolutely. These are local people. There was actually one lady that drove down from, I believe it was West Hope, that wanted to volunteer at the flood hotline today. So use a little bit of patience. I realize emotions are running rampant right now. If they can't get an answer for you immediately, they certainly will try.
And, you know, just to get back to the FEMA thing, if FEMA, I got to think they're going to reevaluate with everything that's going on in the evacuation.
It's almost a guarantee.
Let's just say they don't. I think, you know, that penny sales tax that we voted on, take some of that money, buy them an airplane ticket, and have them come to Minot and explain why not.
Oh, yeah.
I got to think that that's going to change.
I've got a very strong feeling that they will. Let's go ahead and just take a short break here if we can, Mike. We're going to regroup here, and then we're going to come back in just a few moments on KX News, or extended round-the-clock edition on this Flood Fight 2011. We'll be back in a moment.
From KX News in high definition, this is a special report, Flood Fight 2011.
And welcome back to Flood Fight 2011. My name is Sean Sitma. I'm in with you until 6 o'clock for our around-the-clock coverage now for the next, I'd say a week, until the flood fight comes to a complete run over in the Magic City. We've had many comments and concerns over the last, I would say, 12 hours as some of the initial news came that the city of Minot was going to basically end our dike building, our primary dike building, and going into evacuation mode. News came today that the river in Minot, the Mouse River at the Broadway Bridge, was going to crest, the latest crest, at 1564.4, and that is going to happen in about a week. That is going to happen on June 27th. That is a Monday. That crest is also going to shatter the previous record by many feet, set back all the way in 1881, and is also going to top the 1969 flood that crested at 1555.4. Here is some of that video from our archives and film from 1969. Some of the video that we took out of the 40th anniversary series as we look at Ramstead School. And that was down in the river valley that to this day still has a watermark. And if projections hold true, we will have to create a new water line that very well could be near the top of that building, as it is set to crest nearly 9 feet higher than it did in 1969. Jim Olson and I made reference earlier, there's Perkett Middle School there as it passes by, made reference that if it is cresting at 1564.4, that 9 feet is going to make a tremendous difference in how this valley looks, and could very well overtop a lot of the houses in the lower elevations in Minot. It could be rooftops just sticking out. Corbett Field coming into view now, as we saw it in in 1969. A lot of the infield, all of it was under, and if projections are true, those fences very well could be gone as well. Working our way on here, we can see a little bit towards the state fair as it was nearly 42 years ago now. As Minot Mayor Kurt Zimbelman said, it was a sad day for Minot. Closed an evening press conference on Monday where he had delivered the devastating news to thousands in Minot that floodwaters would overtake their homes and their businesses. And it won't just flood in a minor way, it will dwarf the 1969 flood, which measured 1554.4. 2011 again is expected to reach that 1564.4. Perry Olson has the details from that.
It's not a question of if anymore. Minot will flood. It will displace thousands, shut down the heart of the city for weeks, and inundate thousands of homes in a way never seen before.
We could have some really catastrophic type of event here, and it will be. There's not much of a doubt. So I think people have to understand that, you know, even if you were on the edge before, you may not be on the edge the next time.
The mayor was speaking to those who will be evacuated. Now, all evacuated about 3 weeks ago will be again and must be out by Wednesday night at 10 o'clock. But for those on the outskirts of this map, they too should make plans to evacuate. There's no way to guarantee that the mighty mouse won't reach your home, even if you're not in an evacuation zone, but may be right next to it.
We're currently looking at inundation maps and profiles to see if we'll have to enlarge these evacuation zones.
Expect to hear more on that Tuesday, but the news to hear today, and let sink in, is this.
We're going to become a pool. I mean, we're going to become a lake. And it's hard to accept, it's hard to really believe, but I have some real concerns.
Concerns that will become reality. Flows of 17,000 CFS. That's more than 3 times the record amount before this year from the Lake Darling Dam on Wednesday will reach Minot sometime Thursday, Friday, or the weekend. And the emergency levee system will be topped.
All city bridges will be closed at these levels except for Broadway Bridge. We plan to keep Broadway open.
Secondary dike work will hopefully keep it open as a major north-south route along with the west bypass. More infrastructure news. The water system in Minot will be put to the test. Alan Walter spoke to the need for conservation over the entire duration of this flood.
You need to think about what you're doing when you're taking your showers and baths and washing clothes and all that stuff.
The city will be down to 1 aquifer. Walter says it can do the job, but conservation is a must. Now, the news is endless, but what citizens of Minot need to know is this. The battle to keep floodwaters in the banks of the riverbed will fail. Water will spill over and flood Minot in a way never before seen by anyone alive today. This flood will last for at least 2 weeks before the water may start to go down at all. This will be long. It will be devastating. It will change thousands of lives. An example of just how high the mouse will rise comes from Sean Sitma's story from Sunday. Now, this marker indicates the level of the 1969 flood just east of Oak Park. We'll match this and cover it with an additional 7 feet of water. In Minot, Perry Olson, KX News.
Just seems like a hard pill to swallow for a lot of folks in the valley tonight. And the orders that came out today with the mandatory evacuations coming Wednesday night at 10 p.m. Has given us about 3 days to get everything in order and get out of the valley, as the evacuation is set a couple of days before Friday's initial inundation, which is expected in that Teresita Vallejo area, coming in Friday in those mid-morning hours. Again, those that flood projection sitting at 1564.4. We could be looking at some of those new numbers as possibly early as the next 20-25 minutes at that 1 o'clock hour. Now we are.
I'm sorry. We had a request to put up the FEMA phone number again on our Facebook.
Can we go ahead and put up that flood that FEMA number there, Mike, before we head into the next video? That is a number that we do need to report any and all damages caused by the flooding in this flood fight, and that is 1-877-212 0316. Again, this is the number that we need to hold on to as we return when we return to our homes after the floodwaters have gone down. 1-877-212-0316. Now, Tom, with the flooding imminent as the valley is set to, the water is going to go over the dikes, many people are asking, why are we still calling this a flood fight? And Mike, go ahead and roll the video. And this is why, simply because we are still trying to keep some of the city's infrastructure and high priority areas out of the water that is set to take over the valley. This is the State Fair Center as it was tonight, as payloaders continue to pile dirt throughout the around-the-clock hours. It's about every 30 seconds that these huge trucks are rolling in with clay, dumping it, and taking only a few minutes for these payloaders to mound up that dirt. And they have a task at hand. You're talking about a dike that is going to have to be many, many feet tall, and they're starting from scratch. Even as we saw earlier that rain was still kind of sprinkling down, the crews are working around the clocks right now, trying to beat that deadline of Friday when those big crests come into the city.
And speaking of rain, I just checked the radar, and it's definitely raining up in around Estevan and Hirsch, Saskatchewan. Just north between Portal and Northgate, right on the border, some moderate rain showers. It's been about a ½ inch to 3/4 of an inch in the past hour. The ground is saturated. I don't know what numbers have been included in their forecast for the river levels. We'll get a better idea tomorrow. I'm going to try to get a hold of the Weather Service and see if I can get a figure on how much they factored in, and see if we're over that or under that. I'll see what I can do. I don't know that I can get an answer, but I'll try.
Well, I know that answer will be definitive any which way when they have their 1 o'clock conference call between the emergency manager and the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers and the National Weather Service, all of that. The evacuation orders came today, and a lot of us are wondering what to do as we try to find places to put our things, where to go, and many of us have pets. Now, the NDSU Extension Center south of Minot, that's the North Central Research Extension Center, will once again be opening up to take our pets as many people leave the valley and don't have anywhere to go for our pooches and cats and things like that. They're going to be opening up now tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. and again on Wednesday. They're open from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. Now, they ask that you bring an ample supply of food, as those pets could be there for quite some time. A leash for the dog, maybe a little toy for the cat, and some soft blankets as well. As we saw the first time just a few weeks ago when the evacuations went in on June 1st, that they did a great job of taking care of the pets, but they ran a little short initially on that bedding. So they're asking for a little bit of food, a leash, and then some bedding for those animals. As we heard just a few moments ago, that Alan Walter brought up the issue of conserving water as we head into the next few weeks of this flood. We're down to 1 aquifer right now, as he put it, that the city can handle that, but it's running at a maximum, and certainly that the issue of conserving water is at the forefront of households. So as he put it, the lawn sprinklers should be shut off, and that take care anytime that you're using water that it is being done in a conservative mode, by all means. And with that, we also need to readdress the issue of plugging drains. As we've heard many times over the last few weeks, that our sanitary sewer system is running at capacity, and that means that that we are just moments away from a sewer backup at any moment if one of those sewer lines should collapse. Mike, do we have that plugging your drains graphic handy by chance here? As Lori Sharmer with the NDSU Extension Service in Minot has been gracious enough to send out some of these different notices, and this one is preparing your house for the flooding. And again, that's turning off the water and gas and electricity, removing some of those valuables and the hazardous materials, and then plugging the drains. And this really is for anybody that lives on the hill or down in the valley, and this is the lower level of your home. And this is plugging your stools at the base. This is removing the stool from the floor and plugging it with that 3-inch plug in the hole. for your sinks, you can't just put a stopper down and hope that that's going to hold. They have those drain runovers in all the sinks, and if there is a backup, it will come through that runover part in the sink. So you need to go behind the drain trap, and that means unhooking some of your plumbing underneath your sink and getting in there. I will warn you that some of the water that runs out of there and the smell is not going to be pleasant, but that is the area that you will need to plug in. Some of those range in sizes, so you might want to have a tape measure handy with that as well. Your floor drains are a must. That is another, I believe, a 3-inch on some of those, a 2-inch on others, but I think it's a pretty standard. And they are, again, I have to reiterate that all people on the hill in North Hill, South Hill, then down in the valley, whether it's Burlington, that you should plug the drains in the lowest level of your house to avoid any sewer backups that Alan Walter indicated a few days ago that, let's be honest, is imminent. As the valley floods, a number of those pipes could very easily be broken, and that's when we're going to have some of those backups. We're going to take a break here from our round-the-clock coverage on KX News Live for Flood Fight 2011. We will be back in just a few moments.
From KX News in high definition, this is a special report, Flood Fight 2011.
And good morning. It is 12:51 as we continue our around-the-clock coverage of Flood Fight 2011. I'm Sean Sipma, in with you until 6 o'clock this morning. Again, the top news of the day, the heartbreaking news for many of us in Minot that the Mouse River is expected to overflow its banks and increase to a level that is unprecedented in recorded history. The old record set back in 1881 set at 1558. Our new projected crest expected at 1564.4. That is many feet above the old record, and then again 9 feet above the former crest in 1969 of 1555.4, so 9 feet above that crest. Once that news came out that the river was going to flood, the evacuation order was sent out, setting Wednesday at 10 p.m. as the day and the time that the valley in Minot has to be emptied out. An executive order from the governor was issued today to enforce the first mandatory evacuation of Burlington this spring as well. Sandbagging efforts, though, will continue in Burlington, where volunteers are still needed, they say, but the evacuation order in Burlington will stand. After 6 p.m. on Wednesday, the evacuated homes will be marked and no one will be allowed in. But I tell you what, thousands of people will be evacuating this week, probably thousands more than the 10,000 who originally left their homes nearly 3 weeks ago. Today, Catherine Ross visited some neighborhoods where not everyone is giving in to Mother Nature just yet.
With new reports of up to 17,000 cubic feet per second pouring out of Lake Darling by Thursday, for some, resistance is turning to resignation.
We started out the day with the plans of sandbagging and building up the dike system around the area, and everyone kind of gave up, and everyone's just moving out now.
Under the worst of circumstances, people around here have gotten pretty efficient on the assembly line, moving precious cargo back and forth as predictions change.
About 2 weeks ago, we had a big crew here and moved everything out and moved everything back, or started moving back in this last weekend, and now we're moving it all back out again.
Between Minot and Burlington, it's become every man for himself, unless you find your way to this happy group of volunteers. Sandbagging through a downpour, a last-ditch effort for Brooks Addition and the Robinwood neighborhood.
There's always hope.
They're digging in as some head for higher ground and others hope for a miracle.
Hopefully we can salvage our house, and just have to see what happens from there.
You don't know. It might be enough just to save one house, two, a whole neighborhood. You don't give up.
Resignation, resistance, and resiliency, all coming together as we ride out this dark hour. Catherine Ross, KX News.
As Jim Olson pointed out earlier, our hour is going to turn into days and possibly into weeks. Aside from sandbagging in Burlington and other rural areas today in the rain, many were also evacuating in the rain as some At times, torrential downpours in Minot left many of us heading for cover, but Jim Olson, who spent a good 12 hours on the desk here, headed home today and went right back to work, believe it or not. He got back after long hours on the desk. He arrived, and here's his house lit up and almost looks like daytime. Said he got home, and, well, there's people everywhere, and a semi parked in his yard, and it was a familiar sight for many of us who were down in the valley today. Trailers were literally scattered on every street, backed up through yards, as Jim Olson is chatting here with some of the relatives that are helping remove his house. But you can see a lot of friends and family coming together throughout the valley system today, just trying to get everything out of the house, knowing that this river is going to go well out of its banks to that 1564.4 mark, 9 feet above that 69 peak water level 42 years ago. And this is going to be round-the-clock work for many of us working today or this morning from 7 a.m. until just about 9:30 to come here, and then back at it tomorrow. So round-the-clock work for many of us. Tom Schrader is joining me now, talking a little bit more about what's going on with the weather situation up in Canada. Tom, we talked about the rain amounts up north earlier.
Now, a couple things, you know, over this flood fight, we've been talking about how when they do the river projections, they figure in how much rainfall they think is going to fall into their river projections. Having said that, I called the National Weather Service just a couple of minutes ago and talked with one of my friends that works there, and we kind of went back. He's not a hydrologist, but he went back over the last couple of days, and we were checking charts and stuff, and my question to him was, is the rain that is falling right now and that has fallen in the past 24 to 30 hours, is that inside the numbers that they were using? I mean, and from what we could tell, yes, it is. That would be good news. All right, but there was one problem that wasn't in this, so I mean, this can't obviously all be good news. It's just our luck. The good news is so far the rain amounts have been kind of what they expected in North Dakota. I mean, there are hot spots, you know, but I'm talking about for the Mouse River. But in Canada, southern Canada, far southern Canada, it has actually been pretty light. But up around Regina, and we have a river rainfall estimated, radar estimated rainfall here, and there's a little legend on the right. Up in Regina, they had a boatload, I think was the word, well, he used a different word than that, of rain around Regina. That was not in the projection as far as we could find for the past 30 hours or so. Now, that rain in Regina is a long way away, but it's still going to be draining south, either into the Alameda or Rafferty, and I don't remember which one it was. Jim talked about it earlier today. So the rain around Regina, extremely heavy, and as far as we can tell, and this was not a hydrologist, but as far as we can tell, that was not figured in. But other areas, we've kind of been inside, so it's kind of a mixed bag there, but it's not all bad news.
Certainly, and we personally, I'm just hoping it's not the Rafferty system that drains into it. Mike, we did have that Rafferty video that was up earlier. I'm wondering if you can cue that up here again. I want to show people exactly what's going on up at the Rafferty Dam. Some people are questioning whether Canada, and personally, I would be too, I guess, if I didn't know. Why is Canada releasing all this water? Here it is. It's simply because the Rafferty Dam is over full. And
you have the integrity of the dam.
And when we talk about the dams, yeah, the integrity is brought into question every time a dam reaches that maximum capacity. So they had to up their flows to essentially release exactly what's coming into the dam. So it's staying full, and they're releasing what's flowing in.
And so this isn't a case where they can flood some farmland in Canada and everything's okay.
Reservoir
I mean, they have to worry.
Is not full right now, and we are starting. It seems to be leveling off, so we're starting to see a bit of a gain, hopefully today on the reservoir levels. Our plan is to continue to release in the near term here at roughly the same rate, so that we do gain some storage on the reservoir. We continue to monitor the reservoir level and the inflows and adjust outflows accordingly. It seems like every week to 10 days we get another rainfall event that basically covers the upper basin in the Souris, and it's forecasted that we can get some more rain even today and tomorrow.
That video was taken on Sunday. Jim Olson went up to the Rafferty Dam, and they did get more rain. And the numbers here, I just want to walk through them very briefly here. Rafferty Dam is releasing roughly 17,000 CFS. Now, those levels may have been increased a little bit as that rain totals have come into there. The